we have this militaristic, violent, and like culture and society. You know, I'm sorry, but like by and large, liberals do not buy their children firearms. My dad bought me guitars and coloring books and things like that. Like people on the left and liberals, generally speaking, don't make it their cultural identity to militarize children. You know, there are multiple Republican politicians who pose all of their families with rifles for Christmas. Right? I had a friend in junior high who showed me Yellow Submarine, and it was just like mind-blowing.
Really?
What? You know, and then I like run home to my boomer parents and I'm like, there's this band called the Beatles and they're amazing and they have these songs and they're like, yeah, we know that. I'm like, well, why haven't you told me? You know, why don't we
bad parents? Why don't I know this already?
Yeah, but then I think I do have really deep in my subconscious memories of being like traumatized by the Blue Meanies. So I think maybe I did.
They were bad.
They were creepy, man, especially if you're a little kid. And this is what you see done on the right a lot, which is like, we're going to find one murder case and we're going to focus on that. It's always a young white girl murdered by an immigrant, murdered by, they were obsessing over a woman murdered on a subway by a black man, and he was mentally disturbed. He had called 911 and asked for help. Said, I'm hearing voices, I'm not well, I need help. The heavier burden to me is, as a secular humanist and materialist and an atheist and an agnostic atheist, we can talk about the distinction, but this is it. This is it right
this
now.
This human life
we're
right
living
now,
in.
Maybe 85, 90 years.
The consciousness we have, animated matter, conscious through biology. And this is what's frustrating as a leftist, is heaven and hell is here, and we make it. Heaven and hell are ideas we came up with.
Hey there. You have found yourself in the presence of another life-changing episode of the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast. Thanks so much. Before getting to the discussion, as always, I would like to remind you to do me a big old favor and share this podcast with every single person that you know. Word of mouth helps the audience grow. Don't forget to leave a review and to send me feedback at Why Can't We Talk About That at proton.me. Thank you for doing all of those things. It means a whole lot to me. My guest for this week's conversation is Joe Payne, a lifelong journalist, musician, educator, and communicator who holds to the ideals of the left and classifies himself as a democratic socialist. As an agnostic atheist, he holds to the secular humanist ideas of leftist thought, finding spiritual justice and universal human rights for all people. He has won awards for reporting on local business and social issues, including domestic violence and human trafficking, and has also received awards for his academic studies in history at Cal Poly. He also does some spot-on impressions, and you'll get to hear some of them throughout the episode. To learn more about Joe and his independent news and commentary, check out politicalpain.com or look up Political Payne on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay, one last thing. After listening to this episode, I know that many of the regular listeners are going to want to send me messages saying, Ryan, why didn't you say this? Or why didn't you answer him with that? Why didn't you bring up this point to him? Before sending me those messages, please know that I had written lots of things down during our discussion that I was planning on bringing up. Probably all the things you wish I would have said, but we just plain ran out of time. But have no fear, because at some point I plan to have Joe back on the show, and I can assure you that I will bring up all of those points during the sequel. But for now, enjoy the conversation.
So
thank you for spoiling that.
Oh yeah,
I feel like a real guest. This is the first time I can say I've been on a show. I feel like I'm a guest. You know.
Have you done other podcasts before?
Yeah, but
I mean, other than your own.
Yeah, but COVID. It's always Zoom calls. We're always just doing some online platform interface.
Yeah.
And so there's no green room.
See, I much more prefer this.
This is nice.
If I can do this in any way, I will. But I do them over Zoom if it's somebody in Nebraska. I just had a guy in Nebraska, and I did, cool. And so it's like, obviously he's not going to come out. But I have had people drive 5 and 6 hours.
Oh my goodness!
To do this,
wow.
yeah, which is like
just wanted to have him on.
Well, I told them we could do Zoom, and they're like, "Oh no, man!" It's usually like an old friend from high school. It's, I'd love to see you. I'd love to hang out. Whatever. And it's like, okay, well then, home. If you want to make the drive, go for it. I'm not telling you have to, but
yeah. And when you have multiple people on a Zoom call, you always have that moment where everyone tries to talk.
Right.
And
right.
And there's something missing with the social cues.
Yeah.
I still try to interrupt people in person, but
there you go.
That's a problem. I'm trying to work on it.
Do you ever watch Key and Peele? You seen those?
Not enough, but I see their skits.
Did you see the one? I saw one the other day. I was laughing so hard. You just reminded me of it, where they're trying to do like a Zoom call to each other.
Oh, I gotta see that.
Oh my gosh, dude! And it keeps freezing, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you go." No, wait, now you, and then they're just getting all ticked off, and they're throwing stuff, and like, this sucks, I can't believe, it's so really funny. I was crying,
Everybody
I was laughing.
Everybody can relate.
Well, cool, man. Let's see.
Yeah, I have to say, even though this is the beginning of the preamble, like, I do like the conceit of your show, like things we're not supposed to talk, or why can't we talk about them?
Right.
Music, politics, religion.
Yeah.
For me, music was never the thing. Like, you couldn't talk about it.
It's not. That's just kind of the icebreaker.
That's a good icebreaker.
Yeah. Right.
And for me, music was always, and food, were always the safe topic
to
discuss for people who didn't want to discuss politics or religion.
Right.
I'm the type of person where those two taboo subjects, politics and religion, were always the most interesting thing to talk about.
Me too.
It's like, why can't...
Yeah.
Some people can't talk about it. They get really upset.
Right.
I do think we're in a time now where people are generally upset a lot.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that, but...
I've learned to know, like, especially when I'm talking to somebody in person, not even on the show, but like just at work or whatever.
Yeah.
I can tell, like, almost instantly, like, okay, we're not going to go down that road. Because, you can kind of see their, exactly. You can tell their demeanor changes, and they're just kind of like, okay, we're not going there. Because, again, I don't want to fight with people. That's not my intent.
No. And that's the funny thing is people, they get to know my politics, and they're much to the left. But I've known conservatives my whole life.
Sure.
And I live in Santa Maria, and I've known lots of conservatives my whole life. Grew up around them.
Okay.
And so I know how to talk to people.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I've also have the situation where it's, you're at some event and somebody is pissed and you're pissed. So, we mutually agree we want to hate each other right now and just rip into each other. Okay, like, why not?
Love it. Yeah.
And then you wonder who it's for. It's for the audience. Or, let's both ruin this Christmas party because it'll make us feel better. You know what I mean?
You go home feeling justified. Man, I owned that guy. See the look on his face?
I had that situation where me and this guy ruined a Christmas party.
Oh, man.
And then he leaves, and then I hear sometime later that, he left feeling like, that was great.
Really?
Everyone else was totally like, oh, my God, that was uncomfortable. But, me and him left being like, oh, that was great. Had a good time. Finally get to have a real discussion.
Yeah, and I like that, too. We had it was Christmas or it might have been Thanksgiving here at the house. And
it's always Thanksgiving.
It's always Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. And always get something. But we had a whole bunch of people over, not just family, but friends and stuff. And my son, who's my older son, who's much like me as far as he likes to get into discussions, debates. He's definitely like that. And he was getting into it with another friend about spirituality, religious kind of stuff. And I started to get concerned because they were getting loud.
That's where...
Right? And I was worried because there was parents in here, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? I was like telling my wife, I don't know what to do. Should I stop them or whatever? But there was a couple teenagers in here listening too, right? And that was my main concern. But one of the moms came over, and the next day, and she goes, I just want to thank you for not stopping that conversation. I said, really? She says, yeah, because her son was listening. He was one of the teenagers. She goes, because he was getting so much out of that. Just listening to the two sides go back and forth, and he was learning so much. I was like, great.
And that's the thing. It's I get loud, but that's also just, I get loud when I'm happy.
Sure.
I get loud when, I can be loud.
Right.
But, and then you realize, I think, online, I make clear to my politics, they're no secret. I'm on the left, left of the Democratic Party, and there's a whole like split on like the online left, the YouTube left, which
right.
is like the video essayists,
okay,
and the debate bros,
okay,
and the people who like what's that kid Dean Norris, or I think is his name.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just like that's all they do all day,
right? And
like the late Charlie Kirk, where that is what they're doing is arguing all day, every day, and so and that's a way of approaching politics where. You kind of, I think most of the people accept or kind of know I'm not changing many people's minds. Most people who tune in already know what they feel, but they want, it's like team sports. They want to see their side.
Well, we tend to, a lot of us tend to listen to like who we already agree with, generally speaking,
and
right?
You find the person who aligns with what you want to hear, but I really haven't been that intrigued into that. I don't know. I don't know how you wanted to approach this, but I was, I've had my mind changed by listening to people, but not really people debating.
Okay.
I guess sometimes. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about all.
Yeah, I've changed my views lots of times. I've changed my views on this show before.
Oh,
like in the episode.
That's awesome. I mean,
so it's just
that's rare.
I'm very open to. I mean, I'll first say I'm very confident in what I believe.
Yeah.
However, I am totally open to being shown otherwise. And I say the reason I'm confident is because I feel like I don't just believe whatever I want to believe. Oh, that sounds kind of cool. Like I actually really dive deep into it. I can't talk. Dive deep into it to where I feel more confident about it. And if I dive deep into something, this has happened before too, I'm like, that just didn't pan out. I don't think that's right. And then I just abandon it. It's just
you want to have an informed opinion.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I've been a journalist as long as, since I was in high school.
Oh, nice.
And you realize, every journalist is trying to tell you what they understand. Well, not every one of them, but to me that delineates a journalist from a propagandist.
Right.
But, they're trying to inform you. But you also, as a journalist, I will be clear about where my biases are up front and say, I'm this type of person. These are the things that I care about, that I hold as values and ideals, and then that informs my journalism. Yeah. I'll always try to have a evidence-based, fact-based approach. Yeah. And you see that you have people on either side who it's not evidence-based, it's emotional, or it's just they're trying to win points, or they really have a closed worldview, and it doesn't matter. Yeah. Doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
My mind's made up. Don't bother me with the facts, right? Yeah. So. Exactly. Okay, cool, man. Well, I already know we're going to have a great discussion because, I didn't want to watch too much of your stuff because I didn't want to know too much about your beliefs.
Cool.
I like to kind of come in
fresh,
cold turkey.
That's good.
But I did watch a little bit. I did listen to the song that Jason just posted. I saw that.
Oh, cool.
I listened to the little song. I didn't even know you were a musician.
I did that yesterday.
Okay.
I don't really post music much.
Okay.
I've been a musician my whole life. I'm a pianist and a piano tuner, and
nice.
That was a big part of like me becoming politically awakened, was listening to music.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Let's start there then. Let's show me, walk me down that road.
Cool. So like I grew up in Orchid. Comfortable, privileged, middle class, white boy in the suburbs of Orchid and Fox and Woods.
Okay. And how old are you?
I'm 36.
36. Okay. Yeah. So I got about 10 years on you.
Yeah. Okay. So child of the 90s.
Okay.
I think some of my earliest political memories are like, Mommy, why are they mad at the president? And he did something they're mad at. It was Clinton. It was the Lewinsky stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And they're mad at him about something.
It wasn't exactly age appropriate.
Yeah, something. They're mad at him. Okay.
Something about a dress. I don't know.
And so but my grandmother, my dad's mom, was born and raised in Dundee, Scotland. So I had a little Scottish immigrant grandmother who would say things like, Joseph, put the kettle on. I'd like some tea. Like, okay, Grandma. She'd drink Lipton tea every day. You know? And she bankrolled my music lessons. So, I'm a musician. I really love music. I recognize now that I was lucky enough to have a father who's a musician, who modeled that for me, who, sang songs to us as kids, played the guitar and sang us songs.
Did he do it professionally or just for fun?
He didn't. He got back into his music in his late 40s, early 50s.
Okay.
And was trained when he was young because his grandmother or his mother is from Scotland.
Okay.
My dad's a professional bagpiper.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a full-blown...
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And try living with him, bro. No.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet when you hear it all the time, it's probably like, shut up!
I'm like in the top 1/10 of people who know the difference between good and bad bagpipe playing. I remember one time he played the bagpipes for this, and this kind of ties into to this church we went to as a kid.
Okay.
In Orchid Unity Church, the Unity Chapel.
Oh, off Stubblefield.
Yeah,
okay.
Beautiful pyramid.
I've been there too. Yeah.
He tells everybody, okay, look, I'm going to play you some bagpipes, but first I'm going to tune. I'm just going to tune them.
Yeah.
I'm tuning them. It's not a song. It's not a performance. And he does the thing to tune, and everybody, yay! It just claps for him.
And he got mad.
I just told you.
I wasn't expecting applause from the tuning session.
I saw the same thing later. Ravi Shankar at the beginning of the concert for Bangladesh.
Okay.
Everybody claps, and he goes, "If you're that, if you enjoyed the tuning that much, then you should enjoy the music even more." So, so Grandma got me music lessons, and she got me piano lessons. I studied with Patricia Boyd here in town, who Boyd Hall at Allen Hancock
The name
College.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, so our new fine arts complex that we, this big, beautiful building that has all of the fine arts in one place finally on Hancock's campus. The only reason we have a concert hall now in town, a nice new modern concert hall, is because my childhood piano teacher, Patricia Boyd, donated everything she had to Hancock, and specifically the physical assets of the music department.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she was a dwarf. She had dwarfism.
Okay.
And so, that was like a formative experience for me. I'm 7 years old and I'm going to get my first music lesson.
Yeah.
My dad gets down on one knee and he's like, "Listen, I have to tell you something about your music teacher. She is a dwarf and and he put his finger in my face and he said, you will show her the respect that you show me and your grandmother, because she is an old lady and she is your elder and you respect her."
Nice.
And so it was like, whoa, kind of a eye-opening thing, but just one of those things of this person is no different than you or I, and you show her respect as your teacher.
Right.
And she has a beautiful house over in the nice part of town near the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful long hair cats that would never let you pet them, couches with, plastic over them and all that. Nice. And so I'd wait there patiently. My brother would get a piano lesson and so would I. And
he's older or younger than you?
He's younger than me. And he didn't stick with piano as much, but my brother plays bass. He got into bagpipes too for a minute with my dad. They never wrote me into that. I've never worn the kilt, maybe one day,
Yeah.
But, so, music was classically trained. I'm like 8 and 9 and building up to Haydn and Mozart and Beethoven, but very intermediate level. I never got super advanced. But once I found out about Scott Joplin, it was in ragtime. It was this is cool. Yeah. And then I stopped around 6th grade, and one of the only songs I could ever remember from memory was a boogie type of thing, It's called Broken Record Boogie. I remember it.
Okay.
And so that type of music, the blues, ragtime, rhythm, not as I got older, the classical stuff was always kind of with me, and I loved it. But then when I was in high school at Rigetti, I made
school
friends.
Champions.
Yeah, Warriors. Let's go Warriors. And are you Rigetti too?
Yeah,
of course.
96, yeah.
96 and 07.
Okay.
So I made friends. We were all kind of, we called or some people called them the Hill Kids. I never hung out on the Hill.
Okay.
Hardly ever. They will tell you that.
Yeah.
But people call it Hippie Hill.
Okay. Where was that? At Rigetti?
Right next to Garcia, Mr. Garcia's class. I was a Garcia kid.
Okay.
We called it, where I was in Robert Garcia's The Film and Video.
Yeah, the film guy. Okay. Yeah.
He, one of the most influential mentors of my life.
Okay.
I love that guy.
Yeah. People have been on here and have said that.
Yes.
They really, really liked that guy.
We will always be his kids. And I got COVID a while back. And like he called me before any of my family.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, you guys are still tight. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I was a music teacher for years and years. I only stopped a couple of years ago when I went
at Rigetti.
Went back into school. No, I would do private.
From your house and stuff.
And so I taught his grandson.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
That was very formative. Like being engaged in creativity, having good mentors, good teachers who taught you not just creative methods, but like systematic approaches to study and practice.
Right?
It's not enough to just say I want to be a musician. Okay, but to be a musician, you have to. And I wouldn't
say have to.
I don't want to be an elitist. But to me, a musician can perform their instrument, whatever it might be.
Sure.
Even if you're a folk musician on the back porch somewhere with a banjo, you should be able to play somebody something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm a trained musician. I'm a learned musician. I can read music. I'm not like a great sight reader or anything, but I learned. I have an associate's degree. That's where I met my wife. Was at Hancock in music theory.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
she's into music too.
Oh yeah, she's a fantastic musician. Fantastic. She's a classically trained singer.
Oh wow.
And a violinist. Yeah. So we're very musical people.
Yeah.
That's like a big part of our lives.
Okay.
And so for me coming up. At Rigetti, I met these friends. Champion McConnell was one of them. I don't know if you know Champion, but
he did a song with my friend Chris
Lambert. Yeah, I know Chris. Yeah, Chris was in
Steady Pale Light. Was that one song that they did together?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we lost Champion last year.
I heard. Yeah, I never knew him personally, but
he and I were real close. We had multiple bands together over the years.
Oh, bummer.
Love him to pieces. And I'm very close with his family. They're all family to me. So it was really hard losing him.
He was really too young for that. So totally.
Get checked up. Watch out for that.
Yeah.
I remember I met him. I had a friend in junior high who showed me Yellow Submarine, and I was, I'm still a kid in junior high. You're still like learning the world, and it was just like mind blowing.
Really?
What? And then I like run home to my boomer parents, and I'm like, "There's this band called the Beatles, and they're amazing, and they have these songs." And they're like, "Yeah, we know that." I'm like, "Well, why haven't you told me?" Why don't we have
bad parents?
movie?
Why don't I know this already?
Yeah, but then I think I do have really deep in my subconscious memories of being like traumatized by the Blue Meanies, so I think maybe I did.
They were bad.
They were creepy, man. If you're especially if you're a little kid. So I do think maybe I was exposed to that. But my parents very much listened to like the Beatles. They listened to Santana. I grew up with all like the great rock,
classic
of the
rock
70s.
stuff.
My mom loved like. She had on vinyl like Earth, Wind and Fire, the Commodores,
nice.
It's just such good music.
So you had a pretty good mix of stuff then.
I'm boomer brained, I think, on music, but that like people have told. I had a history professor at Cal Poly tell me like, "Are you going to play more boomer music again?"
Yeah.
I went through undergrad and just got my master's. I was the only person in the history program who ever played a song. In all my time in classes, like during the presentation, or to remind people of like what things were like. Anyway, but that's another gripe. But I met Champion. I was standing next to him at PE class
at Rigetti.
Yeah, we're both in our uniforms and our shorts, and just like, this is good. And he had buttons on, and he had one that was the cover of Abbey Road.
Oh, nice.
And I was like. That's a
crosswalk.
Sick button, bro.
Yeah.
That's a really cool button. And he just took it off and gave it to me.
What a guy.
Said, you have it. Yeah.
That's
I was
nice.
like, okay, bro, we're friends then, And him and a bunch of other kids, John, Joe, Chris, these, several, his older brother Valor also played in a band with TJ Reese, who
so Champion had an older brother named Valor
and a younger sister named Essence. Yeah,
that is so cool.
Valor, Champion, Essence. They were cool.
I mean, I love the unique names. Like,
we
try to be unique with our kids' names. We failed twice because they're the most popular name, but we didn't know that. But I mean, those are so cool. When I hear that stuff, it's like that's really cool.
They're all tremendous people.
Yeah,
I love them. Yeah, the McConnells and
they're all musical.
They're family to me. In some way. Yeah, and they're all artistic. Their father is like a very talented visual artist. He for years did the portraits at the farmers market and Sloan all around here and Strawberry Festival. And Champion and these group of guys played guitars and wrote songs.
Right.
you know, and I asked him, what are you playing? Well, this is a C chord. And then, you know, I remember I had them over at my house, and my piano was sitting there. I was like, C chord. He goes, boom. Oh, I do remember. I know a C chord, you know, and was able to start, you know, it didn't sound great at first.
Like on piano, you mean?
On piano, yeah. And so I was able to like kind of, you know, hit triplets along with them as we were going.
Yeah.
But then it was like, okay, well, I can see what you're doing with the guitar. You know, this chord, that chord, this chord. And then my dad also played guitar.
Okay.
And so he bust out his Yamaha out of the, you know, when, you know, the guys are leaving, I really want to learn that song my buddy was playing. And, you know, impress them that I could pick up their, you know, the song they wrote.
Yeah.
And so he's showing, oh, yeah, C chord, oh, F chord, this and that. But then my dad also, he grew up, him and my mom met and grew up in, like, Santa Barbara area. My mom was in Isla Vista. My dad was in Carpinteria.
Okay.
And he took a class at Santa Barbara City College where the teacher there was really into finger picking. And and so my dad would pick like Mississippi John Hurt songs.
That's hard stuff.
One of my just like, if you want to know where did America learn how to finger pick, it's from Mississippi John Hurt. His earliest recording was before Robert Johnson's.
Oh, wow.
It was Frankie and Johnny in the 20s. Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, this is a guy, and then he had a few recordings, and he went back to Avalon, Mississippi, where, you know, he was a sharecropper, and nobody heard from him or thought about him until the folk revival of the 50s. And they found him. They just went, oh, he's got a song called Avalon Blues. Let's drive to Avalon, you know.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, you know, the guys, like, you'd see him in that, there's that movie about Bob Dylan with Chalamet or whatever.
I still haven't seen it.
You know, he's
I've heard it's good.
He's okay.
Okay.
But for weeks, I just would be, like, stop and just be thinking about Edward Norton as Pete Seeger. Like, what an incredible, like, that performance really stuck with me. Fantastic.
Right. Well, because Norton's great, and not that I have anything against Chalamet, but my younger daughter's like in love with him. So she's making us watch every movie, but we still haven't seen that one yet.
It's good, actually.
Okay.
You know,
I thought it was a weird choice when I first heard he was going to play Dylan. I was like, really? He's going to play Dylan? I was like, does he even sing? But then I heard him singing some of the songs in the thing. I was like, okay, that's not bad. It's not bad.
You know, I used to be a lot more critical of movies, especially because I'm into filmmaking as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Garcia student.
Nice.
But, you know, I've kind of like let that die. It just like stop being so, you know, like, what's the character?
Cynical.
The critic from the 90s. It stinks.
Oh, yeah, John Lovitz.
John Lovett's
so funny.
Like, it's just tiresome to just enjoy it. It's content. Just, you know, even if it is crap, then you could say so. But,
I'm still a big movie critic too, but the problem is these days I don't see enough movies.
Me too.
But like I still, when I do watch a movie, I love to analyze it and break stuff down and look at this, because I was a film guy too. I was just wanting to go into film, and then we had our first kid when I was 20.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of, you know, not that I regret it or anything. My daughter listens to these, honey, I don't regret it. But, but that was kind of the projection of my life at that time, and then that happened. And it's like, okay, well now we got to do things a little differently because we're gonna have a kid. So
when I was in high school, I wanted to be a film editor. I like there was a guy who would come to Garcia's class and talk, who was one of his students who was working with Coppola, and he told me about Walter Murch and get this book Walter Murch wrote and this and this and that.
Wow.
So cool.
That's awesome. And he was a previous Rigetti student.
Kevin
Bailey. Yeah.
You know Kevin?
Okay.
Punker Kev, he went by. But in Garcia's class, he named computers after students who were in the business.
Okay.
But
that's awesome.
I was super into that, and I saw him not too long ago at Garcia's birthday. At Waller Park. But anyway, so was super into that, and you know, and then met these friends who were playing music, and like we all like shared an obsession with Woody Guthrie, Bob Dylan. You know, and then you learn, you know, about all the kind of characters, Joan Baez, Pete Seeger, the Weavers, you know, went in the golden age of iTunes. You know, we'd go to the public library and go get CDs and then scan them into iTunes.
That's right, dude.
You could have an entire Woody Guthrie songbook in your pocket, you know.
Well, all those influences you just mentioned make sense to the song you just put out.
Of course.
Because that's what it reminded me of, like some of the kind of storyteller, folksy kind of song.
I did a talking blues. So
exactly.
Anybody doesn't know, I have a podcast, Political Payne, or I'm a journalist. I post, but I haven't really blended my music with that until yesterday.
You should start, man.
I had written this song, and it's a talking blues. Woody Guthrie did a talking blues. Bob Dylan did a talking blues. And that's kind of where you have a nice flat picking bluegrass thing.
Yeah.
And then you're just talking like I'm talking the truth. You know? I'm telling you what I think, buddy. So I just posted that, and I'm really happy for the response to it.
Nice, man. Nice.
I like that.
It's like you were a C.W. McCall. So you should check him out.
C.W.
McCall.
I think I do know who that is.
Yeah, it's just a similar kind of style of music. Yeah, for sure. You probably like it.
And that's the thing is like, sometimes it's like by instrument, you know what I mean? Like piano, I get on the piano and I'll give you some Gershwin and some jazz and love Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. Like,
nice, man.
I could listen to the albums they cut together. Like if it was like Beatles has always been my favorite band of all time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
My wife, too, and that's kind of, it was like an early litmus test for each other, That
was your first bonding experience.
Favorite. Well, I think, part of my courtship was I think I played a Beatles song to her early on.
Which one was it?
It was something, of course. Okay. George is my favorite Beatle.
Me too.
I think, bro, give me one of these.
You don't hear that very often.
No, and hers is John, and I'm fine with that. Everything's fine. Yeah. But
I don't dislike any of them.
No, me
but George is my favorite.
But you can have your least favorite Beatle. Yeah. Who's yours?
I don't know. Probably Ringo.
Mine's Paul.
Really?
Paul. I mean, I love Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
I love him. But he's like the pop. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, that's a silly thing to say. Like, it's least favorite. Not like I don't like Paul.
Right.
I love Paul.
Right.
But, he still wrote some of the like great songs. Michelle and
Big
Yesterday.
Time. Yes.
And but then he also went on to write like, what? Everybody's gonna dance tonight. Everybody's gonna okay. Well, or what's the other one? Someone's knocking at the door.
Oh,
my favorite is that really his James Bond song is just.
Which one's that? James Bond song.
Live and let die.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so corny. He's the corny one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He's the pop.
I heard the Guns N' Roses version of that before I heard that version.
Oh, okay.
Before I heard the Wings version, I heard the Guns N' Roses in junior high when Use Your Illusion came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's kind of the same experience as you had when you go and tell your parents, have you heard of this band, the Beatles? I'm playing this Guns N' Roses track, and I'm like, oh, I really like this song. And my dad's like, dude, that's a Beatles cover. And I'm like, what?
Here's a funny thing. We're all little kids in the 90s, so like who's everybody's favorite when you're a kid? Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we all loved Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
And then I remember my dad like one time in the car just being like, enough of this. Like, enough. No. Like, you're going to listen to the real thing. Like, we're going to go listen to the Kinks. We're going to go listen to, whatever, George Harrison or whoever it was that he was covering,
Oh, yeah, because he did I Got My Mind Set on You, right?
Yes.
What was the word on one?
This song is just...
Yeah. That's right.
But, Yoda, I met him in a swamp down in Dagobah. And my dad's like, no, you're going to listen to the Kinks. God, I can't handle it. It's so funny. So,
oh man,
music has always been there. It's been ever present in my life. Musical family, and then really sense of connection with my friends. But then learning about. You learn about Bob Dylan, you get obsessed with Bob Dylan, you realize, Bob Dylan was obsessed with Woody Guthrie. And, I also love Arlo Guthrie. An amazing experience Champion and the guys shared. I joined his band in high school, Jolly Roger.
Okay.
And we got to play the Hot Lick stage at the Live Oak Festival on Sunday morning, which gave us backstage passes all day. Ooh. And on the main stage that night was Arlo.
Oh, no way.
Got to shake his hand. Got to meet him. We sat up front as he did Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah.
Official members of
Did he do the whole song?
The whole song.
Oh, dude.
With his, his daughter was there. Her husband, they're amazing.
Okay.
So that's very formative for me.
Right.
You learn about Bob Dylan. Okay, Woody Guthrie. Well, what's Woody Guthrie's story?
Yeah.
He was a migrant farm worker from Oklahoma who came to California, hopped a boxcar during the Great Depression.
So awesome.
I grew up in Santa Maria Valley.
Right.
As a white kid in the suburbs, if you have your eyes open and you pay attention, you realize there's a racial caste system in this economy.
Yeah.
You know, when you look out the window of your car, you know, and we know who's doing all the labor in the fields.
Sure.
Farm workers.
Oh, yeah,
right?
without a doubt.
Yeah, indigenous, you know, people. Not entirely, but a lot of indigenous people from Mexico.
Sure.
And but then growing up in Orcutt, by this time in the 90s, it had diversified quite a bit, where I had friends who might have been first or second generation immigrants, Latinos, but you know, someone whose parents were from Korea, someone whose parents were from Pakistan, someone whose parents. So I knew kids from a vast array of backgrounds. Yeah. And then growing up in Orcutt too, you realize even among the white kids, there's like, you know, kids like me who grew up in Fox and Woods,
right?
And you know, some kids lived in. Not great.
Fox and Woods.
Yeah, not Fox and Woods, Old Orchid, you know.
Right.
Parents, I mean, addiction runs in my family, and, you know, I had an uncle who passed away homeless in Santa Barbara, struggling with addiction, and so, like, that's close to everybody. But poverty, you know, you realize class is a division.
Sure.
Just if you have your eyes open.
Yeah.
And then you listen to all the stuff the other kids say, you know, and the values that they take from their parents, you know, and you know, you realize how that's used to bully people, and whether it's class or race, or all of it. Yeah. And so I don't know, I've just always had my eyes open and my ears open, and always had a sense of like.
You've always noticed that kind of stuff your whole life?
I guess when I was like 5 or 6. A family moved in next door to us in Fox and Woods, and they were black. They were a black family, and for me as a little kid, it's just like, it's a family next door, right? You know. And they literally had like a daughter, oldest daughter, 2 younger boys, which was what we had, and all of our ages lined up.
Oh,
so it was like perfect neighbors. Yeah, we would like share our backyards pretty much, and awesome. Run around and play. Yeah, and, we're like. My mom was close with their mom, and you know the dads were friendly. Everything. One time, my dad, like a clumsy guy, you know, he like smashed his face, like, and had to get stitches. There've been a few times where my dad has needed to go get stitches, man. And so they were just like, Fred messed himself up pretty bad. So can you take the kids? You know what I mean? So like we were very friendly with them. But I remember an elder in my life. And I'm like 6 years old or 7, and hearing them say something about there being a black family next door to us, and like
someone else said this to you,
an elder, and said it around me. I was listening to adults speaking, and they said something about it that was somewhat prejudiced, not like hardcore, but like it was prejudiced. And I just remember, I don't know if I'm lucky to have that type of critical thinking or that streak or bone in my body, but like I remember being a small child, and where you're literally someone you look up to, and being like, I don't know if I could trust this person, and everything they're saying to me. So this was like, ooh. So I question things.
Well, that might be one of the beauties of growing up in this area. I mean, I don't know if it's true for you, but like I've grown up around all kinds of different kind of people, so like I've never really. To say you don't notice, I hate when people say they don't notice, because that's a stupid thing to say, because you do notice. You notice differences. I notice someone that has long hair and has short hair. We notice physical attributes.
Growing up in Oregon, when I liked to grow my hair long, because I was like infatuated with hippie culture, people noticed. Sure. I couldn't drive down the street without having a slur yelled at me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but see, that's different. Noticing is different than discriminating against. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You do hear people say a lot, why can't we just move on? Why can't we not? Why do we got to talk about this? Yeah. And it's like, bro, like we're not in a post anything society. Like it's here. It's been with us, obviously.
Do you think it's better now though than it's been in the past, as far as racism goes? Like as a country?
Not with the ethnic cleansing that's going on right now by the federal government. I know that for people in my family, people that are my family, who are, you know, part of the group that's in the target, the Supreme Court has decided you can profile people based on the color of their skin or the language they're using. This is where I do get upset and angry. There's an ethnic cleansing going on in our country. No, we're, is it better or worse? Yeah. It is what it is. Right. It's also the same with the conversation about violence in America. We done been here, man. Like, where has anybody else been? Like, are we just waking up to this? That like we're the largest empire in world history, which empire is a violent enterprise. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, are we really like that naive? But we haven't even touched on spirituality. But
no, we'll get to all that stuff for sure.
I got like.
I just make notes because there's stuff I want to come back to.
It's all good. But like I nerded out on Christopher Hitchens for a long time on YouTube, like famous.
God is not great.
He was like
great debater,
a socialist. He was like the only socialist allowed on television in America. And it's because he was British and he just did it with
he was charming,
and had an accent and asserted himself in the Washington social sphere,
right?
But I guess I just lost my train of thought of why I brought him. I remember hearing him talk about it was like it was during the Lewinsky scandal.
Okay,
and he was like, I do find it strange to be told that America's lost its innocence because I believe I heard this after JFK and then I heard it again after Watergate and then I heard it again for the Iran-Contra affair and I've never heard of a virginity that grows back, something like he made some bit like that, but it's like this is America, man. To Childish Gambino, right? Like we done been here. Woody Guthrie wrote a protest song against Fred Trump. About housing discrimination. And once Woody Guthrie started making enough money because his songs were blowing up, playing out here on whatever union radio in Pasadena or whatever, he gets enough money. He moves to Greenwich to New York. He's living in these new apartment buildings, and he goes, "God dang it, where are all the other people? Like, why can't I love Sonny Terry and
you
Brad
do the impressions good, man. You're nailing them.
Thank you. I've always loved impressions. Always loved impressions. I have fun with it. But like Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, the blues artists, they I love them to pieces, and they were playing with Woody Guthrie. Bob Dylan gives them a shout out in a song to Woody, right? Okay. And like they couldn't get housing where Woody Guthrie's living, and so he sang a song against Fred Trump, and so it's like. We're right where and that's why I study history too. It's like you got to realize where we've been. Is we're on a moving train, and this is one car in front of another, and we are where we're at because of what came before. You know what I mean?
So but if you had to put it like on it's a weird way to ask it, but you put it on like a scale, and you go back to like the 40s and the 50s, maybe 30s, and you say, as far as racism, what number do you put on it? And then you look at now in 2025, is it close to the same number for you, or is it better or worse, or is it like...
I mean, as a white guy in America in 2025, I mean, is it really my place to say how good or bad it is? I know what
you can have an opinion, even if it's not a personal experience necessarily. But
for some of it is personal experience because I have people in my life who are, my family who are people of color, who are Latino or Latina, and it's like I know, I've taken, people and friends to San Luis Obispo and casually, hate speeched by drunken, guys there, telling them to go back to Mexico. They're from here, man.
No, gotta love it. You gotta love that.
San Luis Obispo, the Roper says the happiest place,
Disneyland's the happiest place.
Or happiest city. Happiest city to live. We're all so happy here. And I went to Cal Poly, and that school has its issues with, racial incidents by the predominantly white, and there were quite a number of conservative students I interacted with. I didn't try to intentionally antagonize them or anything like that, but I know they get uncomfortable in class discussion when I bring certain things up. But I mean, we've had similar times of mass deportation, Eisenhower, FDR, the great progressive Democrat, locked up Japanese people in internment camps, local people, people who are still alive, people who or their families are, still feel the ramifications of them. So, I mentioned my little Scottish grandma, right? My mom's mom, her name was Lorraine. She lived here in Orchid, but she grew up in not in San Luis Obispo proper, but on a ranch that's in between Highway 1, or it's in between Morro Bay and San Luis Obispo on Highway 1.
Okay.
My grandmother had darker olive skin. She had black hair.
Okay.
And
she's Scottish?
No, that's my dad's mom.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wait a minute.
This is my mom's mom.
Okay.
It's okay. My mom's mom grew up on the Highway 1 out there.
Okay.
She's descended from Spaniards who came here in 1840.
Gotcha.
Okay, when this was Mexico.
Right.
It's part of the colonization. Is there some indigenous in there? Possibly. That's not that... even if there is, I'm not the type of person to go around saying, I'm such and such.
Right.
No, this is what settler colonialism means, is people are erased and removed, even if Spanish colonialism wasn't so murderous as American settler colonialism. And that's part of what I've studied at Cal Poly. But, I just saw the that was another thing early on. There's a discrepancy between my two grandmas. My Scottish grandma was an immigrant. Nobody yelled at her to go back where you come from.
Right.
Nobody called her illegal, even though she overstayed a visa.
Right.
And nobody.
So technically, she was, in a sense, right? Is that what you're saying?
What?
At one point, she was here illegally.
She might have been.
Okay.
I don't know. She had a visa. She overstayed it, and she found a guy and got married.
Oh, okay.
Which is is she a criminal?
Yeah.
Did she do something illegal?
Right.
Overstaying a visa was a civil violation. It's the same as a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Until Jeff Sessions changed that under Trump Point 1.
Right.
So, are we going to call everyone who... Are we going to call everyone who has gone above the speed limit, an illegal?
Well, I'll say this. I don't like ever calling people illegal.
Me neither.
I don't like that term at all.
Yeah.
But I think that people do illegal things. And if there's a law in place, whether I agree with that law or not, let's say I don't agree that the speed limit's 65 and I'm going to drive 85.
Yeah.
I can't tell the cop, dude, that law sucks. I disagree with that law.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, yep, that's great, Ryan. Here you go, Mr. Hester. I'll see you in court.
But if you've had one or more speeding tickets, are you a criminal? And then, what I mean?
Criminal sounds more like someone that's done prison time, right? So
But I guess the point I'm making is using a term like illegal to describe people,
right? Which I don't like.
Part of a longer effort of dehumanization of people.
Okay,
and we see the outcome of it now, where even though we see video after video of a middle-aged woman with children, who's just trying to make a living, getting thrown to the ground, or just all the awful footage that you can just watch of ICE arrests. That there are people who are just totally fine with that. Well, they committed a crime. They shouldn't be here at all.
Right.
Where it's I'm sorry, man, I live in Santa Maria, California, in Santa Barbara County. You can go read the crop report. It's $1 billion run through this county every year,
right?
In agriculture alone, and the people who do the majority of the labor, not all of them are undocumented. A lot of them are documented, but and again, you have wealthy ranching families who are also 10th generation Californians. Yeah, their names are city streets here, and they profit off of the labor of these people because they hold the land. Sure, and that could include people who are Latinos. You know what I mean? And I did some reporting on my channel about some labor organizing going on at one of the farms here in town. Yep. And you have a 5-foot-something Oaxacan woman trying to speak to the field manager, who's a 6-foot-something Latino who's he's fairer skinned than she is. She's indigenous. Sure. And he's lording over her, and he's speaking his Spanish very slowly. Why? Because he's making fun of her that Spanish is not her first language. She speaks an indigenous language. Right. So that right there is the colonial project repeated in our present time of modern capitalism. Okay. Right. So
do you think though? Okay. So do you as far as the border and that kind of thing? Do you think we should have open borders then, or do you think there should be any law there at all?
I mean, that's kind of just a misnomer to me, because it's we have a nation, we have borders, we do.
Sure.
And they are enforced. You know, Obama deported way more people than Trump did in his first term.
But so I assume you didn't like that either when Obama did.
No, not necessarily, especially when it's just people like needing asylum.
Okay.
Right? There are people fleeing political. If you know anything, and this is the thing, that's like where you make no friends as a leftist or a left-winger, where it's like, oh, all these people are coming here, we're mad about it. Oh, okay, did you know that's because of the Cold War and what the CIA did to all these countries? Like, do you want to talk about Allende in Chile and Pinochet? Do you want to talk about what happened in Guatemala or the military dictatorship in Brazil or Argentina? Or, you know what I mean? So you become that harpy, or you're just harping on.
Well, there's always a reason.
Don't
for
you
everything,
know about our foreign policy and this and this and that? People hate California because they see footage of Skid Row, or they get angry at Democrats for homelessness, when it's like, we used to have most people who are experiencing homelessness also have untreated mental illness,
right? And
we used to have state-funded and state-run mental health facilities throughout the state, and they were dismantled by the Reagan governorship, by Ronald Reagan. Right. And you're going to get the government off of your back, and the government here to help. That's the worst thing you could hear.
That's another good impression.
Thank you. We have all these problems downstream from right-wing policy, but they're liberals' fault somehow. They're and I get real bristly when I'm told it's the left's fault for anything, because the left has had no political power in this country whatsoever. Like, if you want to say the Democratic Party is the left, that's just because the Overton window has shifted so far to the right that the far right is now the regular right. And the Democrats have been centrist, technocrat politicians for so long.
Have you noticed, though, that, like, depending on who you're talking to, it's like I could be talking to somebody over there that's very right-leaning, and they would say the exact same thing you just said, but with the terms switched. They would say that the left has become so left now that it's the normal left, and that they're talking about the control and the power over all these things, right? Like, have you had those conversations?
Yeah,
because I noticed that it's always
who's the actual left. This is the thing. If you talk to most Republicans, they think Joe Biden was a communist. Yeah. Or a lot of, like, okay, I shouldn't generalize. And this is the thing. I don't want to...
Joe Biden was nothing, really, to me.
I don't want to generalize, like, because I've known lots of conservatives.
Sure.
Like, not all... I've had conservatives tell me, like, those people are MAGA, and we're not exactly MAGA, you know?
Right.
And it's not a monolith, but they also feel intimidated. I know people who are conservatives and Republicans, and they keep their mouth shut because they're afraid to say how they might feel. They might feel differently about.
Well, it's hard to line up
choice.
with a term like that, because if someone says, Ryan, are you right-leaning or are you conservative? It's like, well, let's talk about it, because I don't want to say yes to that question.
Yeah.
And have someone think I'm the guys that stormed the Capitol on January 6th, right? Like, I don't want that to be what I'm associated with.
We had a guy in Orchid who went out and did that.
Oh, he was there?
And then he got on Andy Caldwell shows here to be like, it was totally Antifa. Yeah, the Antifa was there.
That posed as right.
Yeah, well, they were going with that immediately. Yeah. Like, we think, Andy Caldwell, we think there was Antifas in there, you know?
Right.
I'm like, okay, sure, Andy. But, like, so I guess if I were to make the distinction, if you're, I listen to a lot of different people, conservatives, center, corporate, garbage news, and independent left thinkers. And, I listen to socialists and commies. I would probably call myself a democratic socialist. And that's like Bernie Sanders, okay?
Right.
Bernie Sanders, if there's anyone in Congress who represents anything that you could call the left, there he is, okay? That's probably like, my whole thing is, people say the left has so much power. That is, like, there's nobody with serious power in the country who's actually a leftist or truly to the left. except Bernie Sanders was the Treasury Secretary in the Senate, right, under Biden, or not Treasury Secretary, but the chairman of the Finance Committee. That was, I would say, was the highest ranking leftist in the country.
So you're just saying there's a difference between a leftist and a Democrat.
Yeah, so a leftist wants to confront capitalism and capital and the wealth class and the ruling class. They actually have a critique of capitalism. Liberals do not. Liberalism is kind of the centrist position where where you heard not just Kamala Harris just gave an interview where she was like, I really thought the titans of industry would stand up to Trump, really thought they would care about more than just their bottom line, that's so naive and clueless, but it represents this kind of neoliberal age that we live in. And you say neoliberal, most Americans are like, what's that? They don't they don't know.
Right. Well, neo means new and liberal means
well, no, neoliberalism is specifically the economic agenda that took prominence under Reagan here and Thatcher in England. There was actually things Carter were doing that are neoliberalism. So this was a flip against FDR style progressivism, LBJ's Great Society, where you actually, it's only just the dictionary definition of a government, but you would tax especially the wealth. You have progressive taxation. You tax the wealthy much more than you do the working and class and the poor, the middle class, and you redistribute that wealth in the ways of public goods services, right?
Which is where the socialism part comes in, right?
That's the thing, is that's not even socialism. This is like basic Keynesian economics, and FDR, he was not a socialist. Right. He was they called him a class traitor. There were even wealthy people who were trying to organize a coup against him because they just didn't even want to deal with the taxes. But if we just think of social spending, you know what I mean? As there's the social safety net. You could call that socialism. But democratic socialism is just the idea that can we democratize more of our economy? Meaning, why is it that we have not built a single new unit of public housing in this country since the 90s? Clinton signed, what was it called? I think it was the Faircloth Amendment. It might have been something else, where it declared the U.S. government will not build a single new unit of public housing. We will only upkeep what we already have, right? So that is, Clinton ran towards the center. And his strategy at the time was called triangulation, where if he walked the economic walk of the Republicans, but socially leaned liberal to make people feel like it wasn't so... it wasn't Morning in America, but he went on Arsenio Hall and played a saxophone.
Right.
Oh wow, he seems cool.
Yeah.
Like that.
Which is what he was trying to do. He's trying to be the cool guy. But then, I didn't inhale though. I smoked weed, but I didn't inhale. Yeah. Trying to get in with the kids.
But then at the same time, during the primary, he went back to Arkansas to oversee the execution of a black man who was actually developmentally disabled. Who, as he took his last meal, he left some, so I'd like to save this for later. Didn't even understand what he was walking into. Right. So, that's Clinton demonstrating, I'm tough on crime. Right. The crime bill that's helped lead. I mean, so, Nixon begins the war on drugs. Right. Reagan ramps it up. And the Democrats were right there for it. Clinton was like, the crime bill, 3 strikes, you're out, right? And I have family who've been affected by the war on drugs and mass incarceration, locked up for nonviolent crimes. What do you think that does to their job prospects? Yeah. What do you think? But then you read more about it and you realize, this was a way for them to defang labor. It was a way for them to attack labor. It was a way for them to destabilize the working class and organizers. Was with the war on drugs, but also just mass incarceration. And again, the Democrats have been there for that. Obama, he ran on this platform of, we're going to go against the wars, or no more. Iraq was a bad idea. I'm going to close Guantanamo. Didn't close Guantanamo, right? But there's a famous interview with Obama, where he's speaking with some journalists, and they're kind of like carousing over the fact that the Republicans hate him so much, you know, and obviously race has more than a little something to do with it. But he goes, it's crazy, right? Because, you know, my economics, I'm basically Reagan. I'm Reagan. And he said that. That came out of his own mouth. He said, my economic policy is basically Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And so you can wonder why they hate me, right? Like you know, the birth certificate, all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
wait, so I want to know, like, what?
Yeah.
So when you look at like the war on drugs, or we look at the drug issue we have in our country, which you would agree there's an issue there, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so like, what would be your solution to that? Like, if you were put in power tomorrow, you're given all the resources you needed, and they said, all right, Joe, we want you to go and fix the drug problem in America. Yeah. How would you go about doing so?
It would take a second because we are dealing with such systemic failure. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what it means to be a democratic socialist and somebody who studies history and all these things. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, why do so many people do drugs? Not because they need to. Like, there's a huge problem with the opioid epidemic that we know is just straight up profiteering by drug companies, where they overprescribe, they pushed them onto doctors, taking doctors to golf retreats and all this stuff, you know, to push their drugs. There's the profit motive. Mm-hmm. So neoliberal economics, as we understand it, beginning with Reagan and Thatcher, you know, it's typified by massive deregulation. Get the government off our backs. They were talking about corporate America. Get the government off corporate America. You have deregulation. You have a running away from antitrust. Mm-hmm. Not breaking up big companies anymore. But then you have the systematic dismantling of our social safety net and any type of idea of public good. We used to build public housing all across the country. So if you had people who were in poverty, all these issues of now we call it economic despair. You know, it's like we have systemic failures where we could house everybody. It's actually cheaper to do it or to just build housing cheap now we talk about affordable housing. That's because we're trying to get the private sector to do something that we used to see as a public good. This is a public good. We don't want anybody out on the street. Yeah. So let's just have housing.
Can you describe to me real quick what do you mean by public housing? I don't think I understand what that means.
Public housing is where the federal government builds the house. Okay. And then the housing authority will, if you're under the poverty limit, they will provide you with housing. Okay. So here in Santa Maria,
it's like Section 8, or no, is that something different?
Section 8 is a voucher. Okay. You could be renting from anybody who accepts a Section 8 voucher. Gotcha. In Santa Maria, at the corner of Main and Broadway, right behind Perlman Park, you have that very tall building. Yeah. Yep. That's public housing that was built in the 60s. Okay. And it was built by the federal government. It's for elderly people who are on Social Security and Medicare, and they're literally like people in the building who are nurses, who are social workers, and there's public housing in Lompoc. It's like apartment buildings.
But do they live there for free? Or do they pay like a really minor rent kind of thing?
I think so. I think so. But it's like, if you're, what if you're severely disabled? Sure. And you cannot work? You collect disability, and we do have a certain amount of public housing in the country. We have not built any new public housing since Clinton, and that was, again, the Democratic Party was all on board for that. Clinton signed that bill. Right. Clinton said, put Reagan's words in his mouth of the era of big government's over. Make it great again. Clinton said that. Yeah. Reagan said that.
Did they really?
Yes, they said it. I love it. I've seen the clips. They've said that.
I'm surprised I haven't seen that going around.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to do more of that on like my posting. I did one the other day where I just it's a really short TikTok where I said, "Hey, remember this?" And it was that interview where Nixon was like, "I mean to say, when the president does it, it is not illegal." And it's like, yeah, remember when they had shame? They had this old type thing called shame, where he actually did something grossly illegal and a breach of power of separation of government or whatever, separation of powers. And he had such shame that he actually left. Wasn't those quaint times? Like, I try to remind people about that. So we are so far downstream, the wealth inequality in this country has outpaced the Gilded Age. There are fewer people with more of the economy held in their control than during the Gilded Age. You know what I mean? So like this is like the Teapot Dome scandal, like that make it's nothing compared to the open corruption that we have now. But it's also like, whatever, Citizens United, like private dark money in politics, and like it's so like there's so many systemic failures of just like meeting people's basic needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but like minimum wage, when was the last time minimum wage went up? Right. And worker productivity's gone up, CEO pay's gone up, but we can't even raise the minimum wage. You know what I mean? So it's like we have failed people, and like, what is I keep saying public goods, right? Public good governance. Yeah. We used to have an education system that taught civics, that, let there's such a thing as public goods. Yeah. The one that we all accept as a public good is national security. That's where all of the budget goes to, is towards the military, because we accept that, okay, well, we'll tank all of our taxes, but that's going to keep us safe. Yeah. Even though
I can tell by the way you said that you believe that.
Yeah. I'm of the generation that sat there in class and watched the Twin Towers go down. Right. And I had one teacher who was like, had the cognizance enough to say the next day, like, hey kids, just to let you know, like, things are going to happen now. So there's some things that are going to happen, and I think that re-traumatized a bunch of us more, that like she was talking to us like adults all of a sudden. Yeah. But and I feel for most people, because who's got the time to learn about all this stuff? Unless you're just a nerd like me and obsessed and like, I got to know why, and you dig more and dig more. My YouTube algorithm feeds me C-SPAN from the 90s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's what I will watch. Nice. I'm watching enough Christopher Hitchens videos and stuff like that. You will see him arguing with what's his name, Pat Buchanan or whatever. Oh yeah, the paleo conservative, right? The conservatives are smart. They do a rebrand every, like, whoever the farther right is in the party, they do a rebrand every midterm or whatever. Now we're Tea Party. Now we're this. Now we're MAGA. Like it's a wise thing. Right. But
so back to the democratic socialism kind of thing. Sure. So now that holds. And this is me assuming, you can correct me, but like there's kind of the idea that every person is entitled, for lack of a better word, to certain things.
Well, we're citizens of this country.
So because of that, they're entitled to a certain level of good services, this kind of deal. But like, is there
house catches on fire? Is it an entitlement to expect the fire department to show up? Yeah. No, I pay my taxes.
Sure. Right.
They should show up.
Right. But I mean, like, what I'm getting at, like, is there? So for you, like, is there a ceiling to that? And if so, what is it? Like, if you say every citizen deserves XYZ. You obviously wouldn't say every citizen deserves 5 Ferraris, a private yacht. You wouldn't say that. But like, at what point would you cut it off and say this is what you deserve and are owed just simply as a citizen of this country?
FDR gave a speech that like from the Oval Office where he talked about a second Bill of Rights, where it's like, and it was very basic stuff. It was like, every American deserves a place of shelter. They deserve food. Sure. And they deserve a good paying job. Yeah. And like that, we used to have a civil service. Like, there's no jobs. Well, we'll put people to work. Oh, the government can't create jobs. Yes, they can. They do every day. Sure. And guess what? If you all of a sudden you have a bunch of people who had no job, economically did, and what are they supposed to do? And again, like, why did the Great Depression happen? Because of Wall Street speculation, because of the wealthiest people and the way that they were managing assets. The housing crisis, Bush deregulated housing loans, like he deregulated the banks and mortgage lending, and then surprise, when you get to it always happens much later, because you have these downstream effects. But in 2007, we have the bubble burst in this massive housing crisis, right? So I want to direct back to what you said, but it's like I had my grandfather, my dad's dad, fought in World War II. He got the GI Bill. He was an orphan during the Great Depression. He had the family that remained lied about his age. He was like 15 years old when he entered the service. Okay, this is at the height of FDR progressivism.
Yeah,
he got the GI Bill. The government didn't pay his entire mortgage for him. The government gave him a down payment, subsidized down payment, and gave him that leg up. And then he went and got a job, or he had much more economic mobility to own a business, to do all these other things he wanted to.
Sure.
And it was also during a big boom of housing development, and so you have and again, we had at this time public housing being built throughout the nation, and then massive private enterprise housing. So this is like what people don't get is that like if you actually subsidize like again public goods, you have a bedrock of nobody's going to be on the street. No, the big one that Bernie Sanders ran on, which I think is wise, is Medicare for all. We need publicly funded healthcare. England, Britain, or whatever, the United Kingdom, they're not a socialist country,
right? But
they have universal healthcare. Canada, it's not social. These are all capitalist, modern capitalist countries. If you just democratize that part and you subsidize that part of the economy, then guess what? Everybody now doesn't have to fear for their lives if they have an accident, or fear for their livelihoods, or lose their home, or lose whatever else if they have an accident, or they get sick, or whatever else happens.
But what would be the critics of that? Like they would say what, that all the taxes would go up drastically if we had healthcare that was for everyone. Like good healthcare. So like, do you see any downsides to that, or do you think it's just win-win all the way?
I mean, there might be downsides to any decisions. Like policies always have effects. There's positive and negative effects. Like part of why Reaganism happened, part of why Nixon happened, but like Reaganism and neoliberalism, I truly believe happened. And again, like this is part of why like the generation that bore us doesn't understand why we're all struggling so hard. Is because they had all these things that were there that or what's the metaphor that kick the ladder out from under them on the way up. Like what the amount of like income that it cost my parents to go to college is nowhere near what it costs us, right? And it's because college was seen as a public good. This will stimulate the economy, and it did. Like the biggest economic expansion of the middle class in the country happened between the 40s to the 60s. And it was because we had massive public investiture and infrastructure, which actually, surprise, surprise, makes commerce run a lot smoother. You can move a lot more products on a really good interstate highway system. Public railroads, Amtrak, America Track. The railroad was a state corporation. It's not socialism, it's just state capitalism, state corporation. And that's essentially, when we won the Cold War, that's essentially what China has done. China is state capitalist. Like why is all our not anymore, I guess, with the tariffs.
And I don't necessarily think those things you're saying are socialism.
But when you say social democracy, you're just and again, I'm not like communists call me a liberal, whatever. That's the thing. That's the weird thing about getting on the left is you get far enough left, and then liberal is said with as much disdain as as a right winger will say. But again, it's this idea that liberals don't want to confront capital or the wealth and the ruling class, whereas progressive left people like Bernie Sanders, social democrats are like, no, we had. We actually, and there were problems. There were like back in the day, part of what got Reagan to get people on board for closing all the mental health hospitals in the country is some of them had bad conditions. And because there was government employees, and no government's perfect, and there were like photos taken from inside one of the hospitals in New York. There was like somebody in their own feces and like, so like there were problems. There were. They didn't know everything we know today, and I'm sure there's a lot more you can do. But now notice like tons of money goes towards trying to solve these problems, but now we have, because our governments have been so adverse and allergic to anything that was being actually done by the government, that they will farm that out to nonprofits. So now we have like a nonprofit industrial complex where, you know, we need something to be done about homelessness. Okay, well, let's feed these nonprofits. Well, there's still tons of homelessness.
Right.
Well, yeah, because they can only handle so much of it, and they are trying to, you know, handle it in all these different ways, where again, if we're not like addressing these other systemic problems,
right,
you know what I mean, that like lead people to addiction, lead people to,
and I agree with you, that's you got to go to the source. I mean, you can put a Band-Aid on the symptoms all you want to, and it's just a Band-Aid. It's not gonna you know, it's that whole scenario about the guy that had the nail in his foot. And he went to the doctor, and they're like, "Well, here, take this, you know, or whatever."
Not anymore. You don't want to take
with codeine or whatever, you know, take some of this, you know, this hardcore stuff to take the pain away. And it's like, oh, great, you know, and you take the drug, and you're right, the pain goes away, but you still have a nail in your foot, right? And you're going to always have a nail in your foot until you remove the nail, you know, So, I mean, that's really what you got to do with some of this stuff.
And this is my thing, like, as someone on the left, as a progressive, Demsock, whatever you want to call me, it's just like, you know,
I would probably just call you Joe personally.
I'm Joe Payne. I'm a Payne. I was born that way. Can't help it. You know, and you're like constantly. I mean, it is a thing where you have to recognize, like, there's always there always and has always been money in this country for imperial expansion, for, you know, the massive military. Right. You know, there's. Do
you think the money should come away from that? Do you think we're giving too much money to that?
I mean, the Pentagon can't account for billions and billions and billions of dollars. There's like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? You know, look behind there. I don't know. You know, pallets of money went to Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, what happened? Oh, I don't know. Like that's wild. They have never passed an audit. Right. Not once. You know, or at least in my living memory. Never passed an audit, never been able to even conduct one. So
you think our military should be bulked up, but you're just saying there's excess money and that's going places.
No, I didn't say our military should be bulked up. So I'm an anti-imperialist. Okay. I don't think you know, I don't like living in a militarized police state empire. Just because we're on the inside of the wall, you know, we call it the imperial core, just because we're in the core. Like, what we're seeing right now with this administration is all the tools and the apparatus that was directed outwards, like during the Bush administration, the war on terror, is now being directed inwards. Actually, what has been directed inwards for quite some time. Like, look at what the assassinations of the Black Panthers, or, you know, the FBI was putting microphones in the pulpit at the church where Martin Luther King was going to speak. You know what I mean? That police state has been directed inward for a long time. The thing about neoliberal economics is they gutted all of these government services, housing, healthcare, you know, social safety nets, you know, food aid, but there's plenty of money for the prison system. We're going to expand that, like, right, and now, because, you know, this is when leftists call it late stage capitalism. Now they got to privatize that. Now we have private prisons, which I couldn't think of a more like horrifying dystopian. That's basically like when I try to get it across to people who don't want to sit here and listen to me rant for hours, is we live in a dystopia, and I call it a right-wing tech dystopia. We have facial recognition software. We have machines, you know, machines in our pockets. That it makes everything so easy, but it's tracking every move you make. You know what I mean? It knows.
Which I don't really care about personally. I don't care if they track me.
I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing.
I'm sure I'm doing lots of things wrong.
Yeah, but no. You know, and this is the thing that people have grappled with, leftists, Marxists, whoever, with, like, you know, even if you Rage Against the Machine,
great
like
band.
Rage Against the Machine or Nirvana,
Rage doesn't rage much anymore. They've kind of fell to the wayside there. They're kind of like, you know,
they're getting back into it, but
with the whole COVID stuff, I felt like they became the machine. I think.
What'd they do?
I don't know. They started saying you have to be vaccinated to come to our shows. You have to do, which fine. Maybe they had the reasons, but it kind of flies in the face of what they used to stand for, which is like, screw the government telling me this, and I'm going to do it. You know, whatever.
Yeah. But and I understand the reticence about that, but like at the same time, I don't. Being asked to take a vaccine to me is not like a government overreach. It's like and this is the thing. Like when the right says something smart, I listen. I go, okay, they're saying something smart, and like they've been railing against collectivism, right? You know, Jordan Peterson and all these kind of characters who've come out of the word work. They'll use that term collectivism, because and that's associated with communism, right? Ooh, collectivism. Where in America we believe in individualism, right? And the
meaning individual rights kind of things. You mean?
Yeah, well, yeah, but individualism as like a social practice, a governing practice, but like you have rights as an individual, but what about my rights as in a collective, like as a laborer, as a worker?
Sure.
Right? So California is hated on for being California, but we have one of the best we're one of the best states for labor rights. You have more rights as a worker here than just about anywhere else, because there is this idea in collectivism is just that we're stronger together. The labor movement, in America, the reason we have a weekend, the reason we have regular hours, overtime pay, disability, OSHA, safety.
Some of that stuff is great, but do you think any of it's not? Like, is there anything within that? Like,
so in California, we have these trainings like anti-harassment and bullying training, and so
nobody should be harassed or bullied,
and you have feelings about that. Like, it's a training to like don't bully people or harass people. Well,
but see, the reason I'm bringing this up is because what you just said a minute ago. I'm kind of reversing that in a sense. So like let's talk about the trans stuff.
Sure.
And I mean, again, harassment, bullying, never okay.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. But I feel like we have expanded those phrases so far now to where almost anything can be considered that, right? We become so offended by everything and everything else. And what I was going to say about the trans thing is that if I'm being told you must, those are some of the words used in some of these trainings, you must call somebody by this, you must do this, and I'm like, well, like you just said a minute ago about rights on one side, well, what about the other person's rights to not have to comply to something that they don't agree with? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and I know what the response, I've talked to people about this before, the response is, well, Ryan, is it really that big a deal for you just to say a word? What's the big deal, Ryan? Come on, can't you just be respectful and use the word? Sure, it is a word. And
it is how those people would like to be addressed.
And I understand that completely. But it's also asking me to act and respond in a place of in my view, not reality. So you're asking me to step into a world of unreality and address people to where, to me, bullying and harassment would be if I knew somebody wanted to go by a certain pronoun and I followed them around all day and was calling them the opposite one.
Yeah.
Hey, he, him. Hey, come here, you stupid him. Blah,
You're
blah.
harassing.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. That would be harassment.
Yeah.
But to me, if they're like, well, I want to be called this, or I want to be addressed as this pronoun. So first of all, me personally, I'm just going to avoid pronouns altogether.
Sure.
I'm not going to call he, her. Hey, John.
Yeah, they indefinite.
Sure, or whatever works. I mean, like, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm really not. People think that that's my whole motive. Ryan, you just want to be mean to people. No, that's not it at all. I'm just like, look, I'll call you John, Sally, whatever. Even if you
people legally change their names,
I got no problem with a name. But a name doesn't bother me. A guy who looks like a man can go by Genevieve for all I care. I will call him Genevieve. I have no problem with that at all.
But here's the thing: is like there's a few things to this. First of all, your beliefs. We all have our beliefs. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But like, there's a restaurant down the street. What if the guy working behind the counter doesn't believe in the germ theory of disease? And you think it's woke ideology telling me to wash my hands?
Right.
Do we have to respect that?
Well, no, but we don't have to eat there.
Public health?
We don't have to eat there.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. They want to conduct commerce in the United States of America.
Sure.
You have to abide by the laws. You don't get to...
Well, right. There's
you don't
laws,
get to launder money. You
Sure.
don't get to... there are all these things. You don't get to cheat on your taxes. You don't
Right.
get to do any of that. So you need to serve everybody. That's the Civil
Right.
Rights Act. I know it's not in vogue anymore. The Civil Rights Act is not super popular on the right or the far right. But, personally...
Is that a Charlie Kirk reference?
Might be. I don't know.
Okay, because we'll go there in a minute.
He's not the only one talking about the Civil Rights Act.
Right. But that's just because something's a law doesn't always mean it's right, which you'd agree with.
Sure, but
right?
if I hear this, if your freedom means the freedom to discriminate against somebody else, I don't it's like the freedom to swing my arm ends at your chin. You know what I mean? So, you can go out in public, you can say whatever you want, you can get on a soapbox and rant.
Sure.
But, if you're in a place of work and the work has a certain standards, then it doesn't matter what you believe. I believe all kinds of, wacky stuff. I don't get to hop off about it at work.
I get it, but there's probably something that we could get to. Like, if I just rattle off a bunch of things. Yeah. That, let's say, if a work came in and said, okay, this is now going to become our new policy at our workplace. Yeah. And let's say it was whatever it was, something that you were like, there's no way I'm ever doing that. Like, it was something that really just, not just something you didn't believe, but something that you just could not bring yourself to do that. You're not going to say, well, I guess it's just work policy. I'm just going to comply. There has to be a line for you where you would say, well, I'm not working here anymore then.
Sure.
Or something. You see what I'm saying?
Sure,
so
there might be.
So you're right. The laws are workplaces and bosses and corporations. They can put whatever parameters within they want.
I've been in a situation where I've had to tell a coworker to not use racial slurs on the job.
Right.
And they get offended that I say so.
Right.
And for me, it's like, I morally think it's wrong. And I think that, if anybody walks by the lunchroom door and they hear you saying that and see me sitting here not saying anything, well, then I have become part of a hostile work environment, which I might personally believe it's not okay. That other person believes it's just fine and dandy. That's how we used to talk until all these liberals started telling us how to think and feel. Sure. And as far as the trans issue goes, I think there's a big reason why transgender people make up such a tiny cross-section of our population, but they have become such a flashpoint. Right. And it's because,
Why do you think it's because?
Well, because of religiosity and
that's always
religious ideology.
But that's always been around.
When I hear no, not always. When I hear the term gender ideology, I have to turn to history. Because I studied the Spanish colonization of California and the mission system. Right. In 15 or whatever, 100 something, Cabrillo came through this area in a boat and went through the Santa Barbara Channel and the Channel Islands, and they observed the Chumash. Yeah. In the 1700s, Gaspar Portola did a land expedition after the founding of Mission San Diego, and they came up the coast. And Father Juan Crespi, a Franciscan missionary of the Catholic Church. He's a the Order of Friends of Francis.
Franciscan monks.
Yeah, he's a Franciscan missionary. Documented as they went along the coast. Oh, we see these guys building canoes here. We're going to name it Carpinteria. This place is beautiful. It's Santa Barbara. This would be a great place for a mission. In a few decades, it would be. Right. There were thousands of Chumash people living there. They lived there undisturbed for thousands of years. Right. They had a civilization. Even the Europeans had to marvel at, wow, look at their culture, look at their stratified society, look at their maritime prowess, look at their technology. And what did they find? They found villages of hundreds, thousands even people to one village. And who were living there? Transgender women. There and Crespi observed this. He says, we found men living as women, long hair, dressed as women, doing the social roles of women. We don't know what this means. Yeah. They arrived, you can't tell me the Chumash were there with the gender unicorn or whatever. Right. And this has been observed. Anthropologists observe it all throughout the world.
Well, you might have misunderstood me.
But hold on.
I think transgenders have been around forever.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying they weren't. I'm saying, but so has religious religious has been around forever too.
Sure.
So my question is like, why recently does there seem to be such a forefront attack on the trans community, or on why is it such a big part of the world now? We're talking about it all the time.
Well, I mean, you do have the issue of like right-wing media is subsidized by billionaires all day, every day. Mm-hmm. We've had right-wing propaganda injected into our discourse all day, every day. You don't even see it. You don't even recognize it. Little House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls Wilder, was funded by a libertarian think group. Yeah. I loved reading about Laura and her sisters and Pa and Ma and there's no Native Americans in here. Okay, whatever. There's no discussion of the slavery issue.
There was on the show. There was on the show.
Okay, good. But the books show a very cookie cutter Ma and Pa. They don't. It doesn't. They're meant for kids, but they don't deal with some of the realities of.
Isn't that why they got canceled?
Brutal settler colonialism, frontier settlement of this country, and it was funneled into our schools by a libertarian think group. That's just the invisible machinations of the right wing moneyed power in this country. But Fox News, openly partisan. It has been for a long time. Talk radio, everywhere you go, there's an AM station with your own local version of Rush Limbaugh
or podcasts.
Now we know. One of the guys speaking at Charlie Kirk's thing, I can't remember his name, but he's basically been washing Nazism with his podcast.
Spoke at his funeral.
And he was one of those guys who was being given money, who was having money funneled to him from some Russian oligarch.
Who was it? Do you know?
Tommy. So what's his name? Gosh, I cannot. I bet. But I know Tim Pool got some of that money. Yeah. Dave Rubin got some of that money. I cannot remember that guy's name, but he's just a white guy with glasses, and he was talking to the FCC. This is the thing, we live in
not Frank Turek.
No. Okay. We're living in the FBI director is a podcaster, right? Mm-hmm. And we wonder why nobody's trusting. We already didn't have much trust in the FBI, obviously, but the idea that there are religious people, it's their religiously held conviction that their race should not commingle with other races. Right. And we don't allow them to, I'm sorry, but if you're going to, at work, it's not a church, they're tax exempt, must be nice. Right. But if you're at work at a private company that is reliant on being a part of the public, you don't get to discriminate against people. You don't just get to casually call the other person there of a different color by slurs all the time.
And I agree with you.
I don't believe in that.
Right. I agree with you, but if you were but see, it's a different thing when we talk about the trans thing, and you probably say, no, it's not, it's the same thing. But to kind of get at what I was saying is more if I'm openly... Well, let me say this first. Yeah. We can go here in a minute, but let me just say this first.
Of course.
I hate racism with a passion. I think it shouldn't be there. People should not be racist in any way, shape, or form.
Agreed.
But I also think that a person has the right to be racist.
Yeah.
As long as they don't hurt people with that belief. But do they
have that right at work?
Well, that's different. And that's what I'm going to get to next. That's what I'm going to. So if we're at work or whatever, I do not have the right to call somebody by a racial slur or anything, or even a sexist. I don't have the right. I'm all in line with all of that. Yeah. But here's the difference. Or let's do this. Let's say I work with a homosexual guy. Okay. I also don't have the right to call him slurs that are derogatory terms for a homosexual person. No, not at all, right?
Tell him that there's something wrong with his lifestyle.
Correct.
He's making a choice.
Right.
And this is the thing, is why are trans
workplace
people...
is not the place. Yeah. But here's the difference. Sorry. This is what I'm getting to. The difference is a homosexual person, that is something, whether a person agrees with that lifestyle, disagrees with that lifestyle, says it's sinful, says it's not, whatever. That's all irrelevant for this right here. It's real. That man is physically sexually attracted to a same sex. That woman is sexually attracted to the same sex. That is a real thing, okay? This is where I'm getting at. So, and if you ask me, let's say he said, can you call me a homosexual? Nobody would say this. Yeah. But they did. I would have no problem doing so because that's reality. He is a homosexual.
Yeah, but also that's the thing about this is gender as a social category rather than biological sex. And I've had this discussion before too, where it's like, once you really get into the facts of biology, it's like race. There's no such thing as race. On a genetic level, there's no such thing.
You cut us open, we all look the same on the inside.
But biologically, gender is not a thing. And there might be male and female as biological categories, but even then, that is not as cut and dry, black and white, and
gender was only used for language back in the day. So, like, you'd have a masculine, a feminine version of a word, and it was in English, it was in Spanish, it was in Greek.
We have social categories of men and women, right? And what we expect them to do and the roles.
And there's social norms. Women wear dresses, men wear pants, whatever.
Now, when I was growing up, women who were gay and presented more masculine, there were slurs to refer to them.
Right.
They're that type of a what.
Sure.
And so,
or even tomboy is not a derogatory term.
Sure, but it is.
Used.
Oh, you're a girl who likes to play sports and play outside. Right. You're like a boy. Right. That's what we say boys do.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so we words are prescriptive. They always change. They're descriptive and prescriptive. They, every generation is changing what words mean. But trans people, which the social category of a woman, again, the Chumash. We're not hanging around reading, college gender courses or taking gender critical theory or whatever. They were living how people live, and transgender women have existed, always existed, as a social category. Sometimes they're not called women. Sometimes they have another word for it, like a non-binary third gender, or what have you. But
so I'd be curious. This group of trans women. This was in Chumash, you said.
The Chumash had.
So I would be curious. Would they say? So just so I'm clear, trans women are biological males who identify as women, correct?
Yeah, and they wore the gendered dress. They did the gendered social roles.
Yeah.
They weren't out hunting or doing the work in the community. Maybe some of them were. And I tend to believe there were biological females who were out there doing the gendered male work as well.
So this was a whole colony of trans women, or was this a small minority of
you
this
have
group?
A village of Chumash people.
Right.
And most of the people are in their gender roles.
Gotcha.
Right? That their society.
But there were some trans women.
And included in that were transgender women, were women in that society. In fact, they had marriages of gendered men marrying the transgender women, and that being accepted as a marriage in their culture and their society.
So they would consider, like, that's what I was going to, like, if you were to go back in time and ask them,
trans women are women,
you would say that.
Yeah, and they were. I didn't say that. That's how it was for them.
That's the way they would.
And when they were contacted after thousands of years of never having to deal with Europeans with their dualistic worldview of heaven and hell and men and women and good and evil, like those things, and we can get into the spirituality. I'm an atheist,
right?
An agnostic atheist. I'm not necessarily a Gnostic.
You put them both together.
Anti-theist,
agnostic.
You want to talk about the distinction?
We'll definitely go there for sure, but not yet.
But as that,
because I want to stay here for a while.
In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, and because we don't know what happens when we die, my belief is those things don't exist. Heaven and hell doesn't exist. The dualism of our world, of that there's only men and only women and biological men. I know someone who's a man and he has that specific genetic condition where he has like XY or whatever, where he is a man. And everyone who knows him knows he's a man. He's masculine, but he doesn't have XX. He has XY. I think that's the problem.
Well, men are XY.
So he's XX.
Okay.
He's XX.
Okay.
You gonna tell me he's not a man?
Well, but you would agree that is a genetic anomaly,
no,
right?
It's not an anomaly. It's not that anomalous
anomaly?
if it's repeated.
Well, sorry, maybe anomaly is the wrong word. It's a mutation in a sense, right? Mutation sounds so hideous, though.
That's what life is.
But it'd be like if a person was born with only one arm, right? You wouldn't say that this person is a one-armed human.
No, he's a human being.
You'd say he's
a human.
And
that's the thing about all this like woke ideology around disability, around saying neurotypical rather than the words we used to use for this stuff. Is recognizing these people are human beings.
Of course,
they're just because they present or look or feel or whatever differently. They're not,
right?
And there are.
My stance is not that they're not humans. You do realize that.
I understand that.
They're all, and they need to be treated with respect. I got all that. I'm totally on board.
But no one's trying to get anything over on anybody by saying this is who I am.
Yeah.
I
don't know. What about the guy who identified as a woman and got into the women's prison and started sleeping with all the chicks? What do you think about that, dude? Come on, he had a good idea. You got to admit that.
Okay, but that no, I don't think that. I don't
really?
think that.
You really think he really does feel?
I think you can bring up. This is the thing I hear. This like, these people want to become. Obviously, trans people are villainized and being attacked. They're more likely to be murdered. They're more likely to have housing discrimination and be homeless. They are already a kind of targeted people, and they want to just get into a women's bathroom to assault. They want to become total social pariahs and outcasts just to get into a women's bathroom. I'm sorry. I know enough women that I know they get followed into bathrooms by men.
Right.
If men want to do that.
Sure.
So,
and I would never say all that. I'm not putting them all in there.
Would you
at least say that some of them are doing that, though? Cool. Do you think some of them are lying about the transgender thing to get things that they want? Like even if it's a small minority.
But I'm sure there are people who believe in God just because, it's called Pascal's wager. On the off chance that I'm wrong and I might go to hell, I'll say I believe, but I don't really.
I agree with you completely.
It's just one of those things where if you want to and this is what you see done on the right a lot, which is like, we're going to find one murder case and we're going to focus on that. It's always a young white girl murdered by an immigrant, they were obsessing over a woman murdered on a subway by a black man, and he was mentally disturbed. He had called 911 and asked for help. Said, I'm hearing voices, I'm not well, I need help.
You're talking about the Ukrainian girl?
Yes, yes. The man who stabbed her had previously called for help. And because, again, we don't have any mental health care. We don't have any infrastructure for that.
Right. We
just have the police state. So what did they do? He called 911 for help, and they charged him with a misdemeanor for calling 911. And I've had people who've lost their minds, who have bipolar 2, and they lose their minds. And what do the authorities tell you? Well, he can't do anything until he commits a crime.
Right. I know.
Oh, I sure hope he doesn't advance on you guys with anything in his hand.
Well, and the sad thing about that is a lot of those are repeat offenders. They've already committed the crime. They've done the jail time. They've gotten out. And then it's like, we can't do anything until he commits a crime. So you got to wait till a person's dead before you can do something?
This is what I mean when I say we have these downstream effects from right-wing policy. Yeah. We have not had mental health care. We have not had housing. Like so many of these awful crimes, which they are, would go away if people who needed mental health treatment got it at no cost to them.
I'm right on board with you with that. With the mental health, I think we definitely need to put more money towards mental health facilities and treatment and all that kind of stuff. But the problem is that I find is unless you make it a mandatory, forced mental health, like you literally grab these people off the street and say, we don't care if you want to go or not. We're throwing you into the mental ward and you're going to get some help. Because the sad thing is there's so many people that aren't going to want to go.
That's just criminalizing. But again, that like...
So what do you do with those people is what I'm asking. The people say, no, screw you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to mental health. I don't need mental health.
Well, first of all, if we lived in a society where if going to a doctor didn't bankrupt you, possibly, then we would have a lot more. Like that's part of my thing with like the anti-vaccine and the healthcare science stuff is like this is an outcome once again of capitalism where people don't trust doctors because every time they go, because they never go, they get told bad news and they get told expensive news.
Right. Which are both the same thing, really. Bad news and expensive news.
Maybe not always. If you get told you're terminal, I mean it is expensive news, but it's worse news.
Sure.
But it's because you didn't get get it checked early. Why? Because you can't afford to go to the doctor because nobody can.
Right.
Insurance is a scam or just a sham like that. I used to work at an employer with a very low like insurance pool, like the group or whatever that I was in.
Oh yeah.
So more than my federal and state income taxes combined, add on my rent, all from my paycheck taken by a insurance company, by a medical insurance company.
Yeah, that's bad.
And that's my issue with Obama's Affordable Care Act is that was Romney's health care plan. There was no public option. There's no, again, public good governance. It's let's empower the private sector and give you a voucher. And so
he took that from Romney. Isn't that who he beat in his second term?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what's so maddening. And then like you listen to like some people on the right and they want to call Joe Biden a communist.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that would be amazing.
It's funny. That's the second time you said. I've never heard anybody say that. I have never heard anybody say Joe Biden was a communist. I've heard him say he's old, he's senile, he's got mental problems, all that. But
that's just like
that's common
reality.
Yeah,
but if you're talking to like MAGA, full-on MAGA people, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are communists, and it's China. And
I wouldn't even put those two in the same pool of people. Yeah. I don't even think those two are similar in any way, other than they were on the same ticket.
They're centrists. They're centrists. Yeah. Joe Biden was a fence-sitting centrist. Like we could go more into that, but I kind of want to continue on what we're saying. Like, no, I don't think we should criminalize people for that's the thing. We shouldn't criminalize people for having mental illness.
Right.
We shouldn't
but we also shouldn't leave them on the street to where they can kill people.
That's the thing. It's like if we had public housing, they would have a place to live. And then they have a familiarity with the social worker who works that facility.
Right.
And it's not someone that they just automatically don't trust. Like, do you know law enforcement's a very dangerous job for the employee of law enforcement.
Yeah.
We just had 3 officers killed responding to a domestic violence call in, was that Pennsylvania or somewhere?
I don't think I heard that one.
Yeah, but one of the more dangerous jobs for federal workers is postal worker. And it ain't because of dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some dog bites, but
sure.
Be real. But it's because if you have someone at home, schizophrenic, and I know people that this was my seeing them, and this is the experience.
Yeah.
Who's the government employee you see every day? It's the postal worker.
Right.
It's the one person you're more likely to attack.
Right.
So, if we had...
Or working at the library.
Yeah.
Same deal.
Well,
we see them, same people all the time.
Exactly.
Same people are causing issues, dealing with mental health issues. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's you can say all you want. They don't want the treatment. Yeah, well, they're not well. They're not well.
Yeah.
They've been so systemically failed. Our sheriff in this county goes before the supervisors every time and says, our jail, people keep dying in our jail because we've become mental health institutions. The prisons are mental health institutions. We are not hospitals.
Yeah.
We're jails. We're supposed to be here for, when somebody drives drunk or, does something violent.
Sure.
That's what we're supposed to be here for.
Right.
The Atascadero State Hospital, which we're all aware of here on the Central Coast, that's a relic of the old infrastructure we used to have that Reagan gutted. It went from being a state mental health institution to being a hospital for the criminally insane. So that's all we have left is we'll criminalize you. We'll criminalize you for being sick. We criminalize addiction. I believe is a type of an illness, and is tied intimately to mental health.
Okay.
We don't need to criminalize people for that.
But you do agree then, it sounds like you're agreeing with me that if we're going to criminalizing, meaning we'll put you in jail, which obviously that's not going to help your mental health. That's not going to help your drug addiction. Not going to help any of it.
No.
But you are saying that we should forcibly place people in these mental health.
No, I didn't say that either. Okay. I'm not sure that's the answer as well.
Okay.
But again, we only have people living in the riverbed because we don't have public housing or we haven't built public housing.
Okay. And
even if you get affordable housing, you have to prove you make income. You have to prove it's in a certain range. And this is the thing, when you there's a statistic that people share a lot now. That is the fact that the majority of unhoused people went through the foster system, the foster care system, which has a whole host of issues in and of itself.
Sure.
And so, like,
but you want to talk about going back to a root problem
again, systemic
why are they
failures,
in foster care?
Systemic failures. And like I've argued with enough conservatives and libertarians, and again, conservatives are not all the same. You got religious conservatives, you got super far right people, you got libertarians, you got the whole I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal, okay, whatever that means. And and like all that. I
like how you do the Mr. Burns.
Yeah, I did the finger cage for that for everybody listening. That means like I'm comfortable. I don't want to pay taxes, but I'm not comfortable with all the hatred and racism that's going on, right?
Sure.
But like I guess I lost my train of thought there. What were we just talking about right before?
Great question, man. We were talking about you're talking about public housing, and if we had that, then there wouldn't be so much mental health issues. We were talking about forcibly placing people into
and the foster care.
Yes.
Like we have these systemic failures. It's a layer cake of failure after failure after failure.
Yeah.
And I've argued with enough libertarians where they say, why should I have to like worry about anybody else? Families should take care of that. And my number one thing is, what about the orphans?
Yeah.
What about the orphans?
Right.
Because guess what? Part of being a democratic socialist or just a regular American FDR style progressive liberal is like you don't need to rely on the wealthy to provide charity. We don't need to rely on the church to do that. People don't need to sit through a sermon to get a sandwich. It's provided for,
right? With
no other reason other than because you're a human being, you're here, you're a citizen, whatever, or not. Like you deserve it because secular humanism. That's the term I heard growing up thrown around. Secular humanist, always with some stank on it. From religious conservative. What's that?
Right.
And that's just. And we have lost humanism. Humanism died a long time ago, and in favor of individualistic, me and mine. That's how Reagan got people to turn against labor and turn against unions. Is like, they want to raise your taxes.
Right.
You should. It's very easy to appeal to selfishness.
Yeah.
And then we're groomed by all the media. It's always like a single lone hero who can take multiple bullets for some reason, but still save the day. And it's never, we don't like, something like Star Wars, which is, still has an individual hero and all this stuff, shows a collective, which
is R2-D2, by the way.
Yeah,
he's the individual hero.
Yes. Droid representation.
That's right.
Or there are people who are funny who will like, it's annoying. Like, don't get me wrong. Or there's a funny leftist called he goes by Thought Slime on the internet, and
like
there are all these people who are on the left, and then they finally get among the left and start hearing and talking, and they go, I hate this, and I hate all of you people, and Thought Slime posted this tweet, and it's evergreen, and he said people who who leave the left because they're annoyed by leftists are basically just weak-willed. Because I'm on the left and I'm annoyed by other leftists every day.
Sure.
And that's the other thing is like, now we're being told that if you're anti-fascist, if you identify with I'm against fascism, you're part of a terrorist organization.
Well, but that's the whole and that's what I was just going to say. Even when we were talking about leftists and that kind of thing. Yeah. Whenever we start assuming that everybody that's part of a group
is the same,
they're not. Thinks the same thing, believes the same things, that's just crazy to me because there's no group in America you can say that about and be right 100% of the way.
And you see it even in like religious conservatism is like evangelicals do not like Catholics. I'm just like sorry to tell you all you Catholics, but they don't like you, and they haven't for that.
Well, they may disagree with their theology.
That's a beef that goes back hundreds of years.
Sure.
And you see it in the way who supports Israel and who doesn't on the right. And some of the dark ideas that exist behind that. You also just see it, and like. Even within Catholicism, you have like people on the Supreme Court who are like part of Opus Dei or whatever, and then they hated Francis, the woke Pope. I was conceiving of a character to do like a liberal Alex Jones, because you see after these shootings, like liberals are becoming full Alex Jones,
right,
you know.
right.
But you know, like, and you know, he could say all the Alex Jones stuff, but as a liberal, you know, like,
sure,
we all know. Amy Coney Barrett's it's an Opus Day, and they, you know, and Alito, and they dispatched J.D. Vance, and he killed the woke pope. You know what I mean? Like, you think it's a coincidence the day after?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry if this is offending anybody. I'm just making jokes.
No, you've given me a great idea, dude.
But like,
with all these impressions.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna have you back one time,
okay.
But we're gonna pick one of your impressions, and you're gonna be that whole person the whole episode.
Oh my God.
And I'm gonna tell everybody that's who's on my show.
That's hard.
I'll be like, dude, I got Alex Jones on my show. Everybody, here he is, you know. And then of course I'll get sued after the fact, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be fun while it lasts. You know. Real quick, before we leave this, I just have one last question with the public housing kind of thing. So let's say that tomorrow we bring in all the public housing necessary. There's literally room for everybody.
Let's solve everything.
Well, just bear with me for a second. Yeah. So that's the way we do that. There literally anybody that wants a place to live has one free of charge. There's no issue there. Bingo, we got it. Okay. And then there's still people on the streets that have mental health issues, that are harming people, killing people, doing this kind of thing. Then what do you do? Do you force them into a mental institute? Do you arrest them? What do you do?
Like we have laws for if you do something violent,
sure,
go to jail, and we deal with it. You know what I mean?
Right, but you were saying that you don't think the jail is going to help them anyway.
Well, if the only reason, like I have a friend who again lost his mind and did end up again. The police wouldn't do any. Like we don't have any infrastructure to help people like that until they do something criminal.
Right.
And so therefore, I don't think he ever would have done that. Like the poor guy, he went on like a walkabout. He was just gone for days. Like no one knew where he was. Yeah. And then he arrives at my house and like I'm like, Jesus, like he's been out for days. Yeah. You know, he's sunburned, he smells, and this was just a guy I went to high school with, man. And like I started feeding him, and his brain is just running copy and paste of every piece of fiction he's ever read. Wow. He's just like, I'm Harry Potter, man. Voldemort tried to kill my parents, and I'm Paul Atreides, man. And they're coming down these sandworms. And blah, 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 blah. Like, he could not stop.
He sounds kind of like Alex
Jones. He could not stop. Yeah. Well, and I don't think it's a surprise that he's been roped into that. Oh, and Alex, QAnon, that's me. Like, he was saying stuff like that. Yeah. And this is like the thing where, like, you know, it keeps happening again and again in this country, over and over and over. This country that we've saturated with firearms, where unbalanced people, take those firearms and commit crimes with them. Sure. And we're like, right now, people are trying to use that to blame an entire political coalition for gun violence. When you know, a lot, you know, obviously, if someone writes a manifesto, they have some ideology behind what they're doing, but they might also have untreated mental illness. Sure. You know what I mean? Like somebody like the psycho who shot up Isla Vista, the incel killer. Right. You know, that's you know, our home county. Like he not only was he obviously radicalized by online hatred, but he was also not mentally balanced. Sure. And he had the people,
Can you be mentally balanced and do all that? Hold on.
He had the people in his life who were calling the authorities saying, "We're scared, man. He's posted this video. We're scared he's going to do something." Right. And he was able to talk the police down. Oh, don't worry about all that. Oh, they're just freaking out. You know, I don't know. Who knows what he said exactly. He's able to talk the guys out of the house before he murdered his roommates, and then
he's the one that stabbed people.
Yes, and then
ran people with his car and shot people. Right.
And there are people who do commit violence who have. I don't think they're that men or that you can't just say it's mental illness. And that's the thing. Like we have gun violence and terrorism in this domestic terrorism in this country. Sure. I think we might have experienced some of it in the last year in Santa Maria. Yeah. And you know, being told by somebody that, oh, mental health, man, that's like that was upsetting to me when people were telling me, oh, mental health, huh? And it's like, wait a second. Like, somebody might have mental health issues, but at the same time, when someone has a stated political grievance, and then they go in and commit violence to say that it's completely removed from their ideology or whatever radicalized them. There's also, again, like we're used to people in this country who are in complete economic dire straits and despair turning the guns on themselves. That's the most common occurrence.
Sure.
And we've decided that's okay. They've targeted schools as some of it is obviously it's the most depraved place you could target. But I have to remind people, and this is like, again, the curse of being someone who's historically minded, and I don't think it's like, oh, they took God out of the schools. No, I'm sorry. The Columbine shooters were radicalized neo-Nazi right-wingers. They were reading the Turner Diary. They did it on the anniversary of Oklahoma City, which was the largest domestic terror attack in this country, which was a neo-Nazi far-right extremist.
Timothy McVeigh, right?
Yeah. And they did it on the anniversary of that, or they did it in retaliation. Yeah. Or the media went with, they were the nerdy kids who were bullied. Yeah. No, man, there was more going on there, and the media will sensationally try to get the first thing out there.
Yeah.
But I was a child when I watched them pull that corpse out of the window at Columbine.
Right.
I had to learn what that was. So as long as I've been alive, we have had targeted far-right terrorism on schools. And why did they hate their schools? Because they're racially integrated civic institutions of education where they were forced against their will to commingle with the others that they hated. Right. And they might have attacked everybody when they did it, but it's also like if you're really trying to spread, again, a lot of these guys are accelerationists, so they want, I don't know if you are familiar with the Turner Diary that I mentioned.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's a far-right neo-Nazi novel that depicts a race war.
Like a fiction novel?
Yes, that depicts a race war. They call it the Year of the Rope or the Day of the Rope. And, it includes, horrifying things, like mass killings, people rampaging throughout their communities, slaughtering people of color. Yeah. The main character has a woman who he pined for, who was dating a person of color, and who this main character loved from afar, but she didn't want him. She wanted this evil person, and the novel includes him stomping her head in.
Oof.
So this is I grew up in Orchid. We had neo-Nazi gangs.
Sure.
They've killed people. Santa Maria gets this reputation for gang violence. We had there are white supremacist gangs in San Luis Obispo. A few years ago, the slow sheriffs pulled over a guy. So this was in Templeton, right off the freeway. They pulled over a guy. He's a neo-Nazi. He had a stockpile in his guns or in his car, and he pulls a gun on the cop on this deputy and starts shooting at him. And this is like people want to understand California. I try to tell them, California is not one place, man.
No.
And this is pretty California, but this neo-Nazi shoots at the police in Templeton, and then scutters off into a vineyard, where a bunch of wine grapes are being, and then he's running through the vineyard, shooting it out with the slow sheriffs, and then he runs back because he only had a handgun on him. He tried to run back to his car where he had AR-15 and all the other heavier weaponry, and got in a shootout with the police. Those people are here. California has Kurt Metzger was a famous neo-Nazi. I don't know if he's still around or whatever, but the Metzgers. But they're in California. American History X takes place in California. Yeah. This is not
great movie, by the way.
Yeah, but this is not a new thing.
Sure.
And far-right extremism and domestic terrorism, people don't think of school shootings and they're just like, oh, it's just wild. Why does it keep happening? Why don't we do anything about it? And you can blame the NRA and conservative politics of the gun stuff. You can't take our guns. Right. You could just blame that, but and that's an easier explanation. But then we have this other there are very motivated people. I don't think they're that kind of hatred. You could try to classify it all as mental illness, but I think you're doing something pretty cruel to people who actually have mental illness.
Sure.
Because I know people with mental, there are all kinds of people across the United States who have mental illness. They don't murder anybody.
Sure.
They're not hateful like that.
Yeah, probably the vast majority.
Yeah. Yes, and that's the fact. So we don't want to grapple with the violent tendencies
Right.
in this country,
Yeah.
among the people here, what like the ideology of racial hatred does to people.
Right.
Like, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that definitely, I guess maybe when I said that, I need to re-clarify. Like, when we're talking about mental illness, that's like an actual diagnosed mental illness, that there's that. Yeah. But I guess what I mean is, like, nobody could say anything to me, believe anything, other than self-defense. Like, if somebody came through my window in the night with a gun to attack my family and I had a gun, then I would defend myself. But, like, to premeditate, I'm going to go to a school and I'm going to shoot up a bunch of people that I disagree with politically or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, that takes a certain mindset. Maybe not a mental health issue, like a disease, but like literally something that's not a normal person thing to do. And that's why it doesn't happen with majority of the population. And that's what I was going to ask you, because we were talking about like them reading that book, the Turner Diaries, or you
gotta hype yourself up to that, man. I mean, you gotta hype yourself up to that, and that's like what they do. That's what like these dark parts of the internet that more and more people are learning about now, like 4chan and all that. They like, so I'll admit, so when I was young, when once you get to a certain age, you realize, everyone dies, and I'm gonna die one day. You kind of, I think there's a natural curiosity of like with the morbid and like what, like we're all gonna die. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And then
except Nicolas Cage. You seen all those pictures?
No. Oh no.
There's a picture of Nicolas Cage in like 1400 something. And there's all these. Nicolas Cage is a vampire.
Genetics are an interesting thing.
But like there was a different school shooting. It wasn't Columbine. It was something else. It was I forgot which one it was now. But they were talking about how these particular kids were playing Call of Duty all the time, right? And they were kind of not blaming Call of Duty, but like looking. But like my whole thing is like, again, and back to reading the Turner Diaries, like. 10,000 people could read the Turner Diaries.
Millions of people play violent video
That's
games
what I'm saying. So
day.
My question is, and this is my question for you, what do you think? What's the difference between the kids that read that and then did Columbine, or the kids that the few kids that played Call of Duty and shot up a school, as opposed to it was the number one game in America for a while, right? So that means everybody in America is playing this, and 99.999% of the kids are playing it and not hurting anybody. So what is the difference between all of those and those two kids that shot up a school?
I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not in their heads. I don't know. Like, there's a difference between just being a kid who likes to play video games and then being a kid who's looking around at all the non-white kids around you and hating them, or feeling certain type of ways about them. And I'm just the type of person where everyone was my friend regardless. And I knew kids who were not that way, and for whatever reason that they had that hatred in their hearts, and we have a culture that celebrates violence. That's why it's very odd to me. Like, what happened to Charlie Kirk was brutal and awful. And, it's terrible. But, it was not, and again, people are just trying to get everybody fired for saying not exactly what I want to hear right now about that killing. I think it's especially traumatizing because it was done in high definition front row view. It's almost like the only thing I see not comparable, like Kirk was not a politician, but it's like the Zapruder
pretty
film.
Close.
But it's like the Zapruder film. Where America had not seen that before. Like that type of violence right in their face. And again, school shootings, we never see footage. We never see the carnage that are done to little children. And so people are deeply traumatized by this.
It was probably the most horrifying thing I've ever personally seen. I mean, I can watch Tarantino movies, but that's fake.
But here's the thing: is people on the left who are being now just completely blamed, like by and large, right now for that lone wolf attack. They've been watching footage from Gaza, watching Palestinian parents scoop the remains of their children out of rubble. you know, every kind of carnage and nightmare you can imagine has been seen now. Imagine if we could see Rwanda on our phone.
Oh, man.
Imagine if we could see Bosnia-Herzegovina on our phone. Imagine if we could have seen what happened in Germany in the war
I don't want to imagine.
phones.
I don't want to see any of it.
We, like, you know, there is media, like, we have very violent media that celebrates violence. And we have media that tries to critique it, and people can't even tell the difference. I grew up, you might have had the same experience where boomer dad traumatizes you at an early age by letting you watch Paul Verhoeven movies. Like I saw RoboCop as a child.
Oh, yeah.
Like a brutal movie. Like one of the most violent, like what you saw happen to Kirk, like is depicted in the movie RoboCop.
Yeah.
But that movie is about neoliberalism. It's about escalating police state. It's about a privatized police force being replaced by drones.
Yeah.
Like Paul Verhoeven, what do we know about this guy? He's a Dutch filmmaker. He grew up in The Hague under Nazi occupation.
Yeah.
He would go out to play in the morning, and his next door neighbor's home had been shelled by the Nazis, and their corpses are strewn across the street. That's what he experienced.
Yeah.
So his films are violent, but they are trying to deal with violence. I remember being young. Everybody wanted to see Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
It came out when I was like, you know...
was that 90s? That was 90s, right?
It was like 99, and I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And everyone wanted to see it. It's supremely violent.
Yeah.
But it's a satire of fascism, of militaristic authoritarian fascism. And like... You know, someone like me, a kid like me, from a more liberal household, I watched that, and certain parts of it, like, clicked. I got it. The scene where the guy goes, "Mobile infantry," you know, and he shakes his hand, "Made me the man I am today." He has a bionic arm. He pushes his chair away from the counter, and his legs are both gone.
Yeah.
This is a violent militaristic society.
Yeah.
Made me the man I am today. Well, you like, look what it's done to him.
Sure.
That was heavy-handed to me, and I was like, "What?" Even as a child, I'm like, "Oh, whoa, whoa." Having said that, there were kids right next to me who saw it, who, you know, 9/11 happens, and that's the meteor striking Buenos Aires in the film, and they were signing up and enlisting and watching that movie to pump themselves up.
Right.
So, like, we don't even recognize the satire when we're being showed it. Like, there were kids who showed up to Trump rallies with "Build the Wall" done in the style of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Yeah. Which is about fascism.
Right.
And living in an authoritarian empire and being just another brick in the wall.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And so, like, I think, like, you know, it's not a coincidence, like, we have this militaristic, violent, and like culture and society. You know, I'm sorry, but like by and large, liberals do not buy their children firearms. My dad bought me guitars and coloring books and things like that. Like people on the left and liberals, generally speaking, don't make it their cultural identity to militarize children. You know, there are multiple Republican politicians who pose all of their families with rifles for Christmas. Yeah. You know, right? They cut commercials where they shoot
like hunting rifles.
Legislation. No, like strapped with maybe some hunting rifles, but also AR-15s. Like, go look them up. After whatever school shooting or Virginia Tech or whatever, a bunch of like Republican Tea Partier types were wearing AR-15 lapel pins to Congress. Not an American flag, an AR-15.
Yeah. Well, those are hunting guns. AR-15.
Sure, yeah, I've seen hunting done with it. Yeah. But like, again, it's like one of those things where now the left is being collective punishment, collective blame for something that was done by a kid who is in a red state in one of the most heaviest Trump voting districts. I don't call him a kid, he was a man. He's 22 years old, he's an adult.
But you don't think he believed those things? Just because you're born in a certain place.
I don't know what he believed. He obviously threw up messages in both directions. Now we have these nihilistic guys who are just, it's for the memes, bro. I'm just joking all the time. You don't know what they believe because they are just trying to trigger. What are you, triggered? Yeah. So we've now, like, the snake has eaten its tail to the point where, you know, we don't even know. But again, you know, like, who makes it a cultural practice to militarize their children and show them how to kill animals. And, you know, the guy who shot Kirk didn't learn to shoot at the Socialist Gun Club.
Sure. But do you think that a big part of that is, like, you and I grew up in California. It's obviously it's not a big hunting area here. We don't, I mean, people do it, but I mean, it's not like if you grew up in Kentucky or Arkansas or somewhere where that's just, you hunt. That's what you do for sport.
And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it.
But those guys are learning.
My dad took me fishing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with hunting or having guns or any of that.
Okay.
I'm really not. But, like, you know, I'm of the left, and I'm being told that if my values are, I think fascism's bad, I'm a terrorist now.
Right.
The you know, Bush expanded the police state through the Patriot Act. Like, you know, ICE didn't exist when we were born. You know, the NSA didn't exist when we were born. These are new creations. We have a militarized police state. They're watching everything we do on our phones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have this culture that you know, claims. Oh, and again, liberals and leftists don't repeat like a mantra to their children and to anyone who will listen, as I've heard my whole life. The Second Amendment is our only defense against a tyrannical government. The Second Amendment is our only defense against a tyrannical government. I'm sorry, like...
Who was that impression?
It's nobody in particular, but I've heard it over and over and over my whole life. You know, go look at left-wing... TikTok or you know what are guys like me doing? We're writing songs about what's going on. We're doing, you know, goofy sketches, you know, where we play both characters on either side. It's theater kids trying to express themselves, like you know, they just deleted the DHS. They just deleted. The study that shows that the majority of domestic extremism is on the far right in this country, because it's an evergreen occurrence, from Oklahoma City to Columbine, the El Paso shooter, you know, again and again, the Buffalo, New York shooter, Dylan Roof in Carolina, South Carolina, like again and again and again. That's why when this killing happened, like, people aren't getting out ahead of their skis when they guess what the psychological profile, what the profile of the shooter would be.
Well, there's a guess and then there's reality, right? But like when Joe Biden was the president, if God forbid he would have been he was assassinated. Now, if you just heard that happened, in your mind, what would you guess? You would guess it was probably a right-wing Republican that was getting him out of there because they can't stand his politics.
Maybe, but I mean, Reagan was shot by a guy who was out of his mind. John Lennon was on Nixon's enemy list. He was shot by a guy who was
I'm just saying, like, first thoughts. I mean, because I'll have a first thought, but I also know it's not reality. I also think I got to wait till the evidence comes out so I can see what happened.
But that's the other thing, is now we have people who, they just want you to go with your first thought.
Right.
And before we knew anything about who the shooter was, we were told there was transgender this written on his bullet casings, which... They retracted those stories. That was not true. That was absolutely not true. And it was literally the brand of the bullet casing maker.
Which was what?
It's a TNR or whatever, or TRN or something.
Oh, they thought it was trans?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, man.
I hadn't heard that yet.
This is where we're at. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
Now, he did have the things that he scrawled on his on his casing.
Sure.
Now we have this guy who shot up the ICE facility.
Yeah.
And
was it anti-ICE?
Yeah.
I'm like...
Which nobody who is against ICE, they say F ICE, abolish ICE, they say every other thing.
Sure.
And now this guy, there has been some reporting already that shows that he was in, like, Reddit threads as, like, a Ron Paul supporter. So, and again, these meme lords, these chaos agents, where they you know, every, like, manifesto writing far-right neo-Nazi, like... McVeigh and the rest, they were hoping to incite a race war. They think that Americans, if something bad enough happens, that they can blame who they want to blame, that it will start the race war, the days of lead, or the day of the rope, as it's called in the Turner Diary. And it's just like, no, man, we got to go to work tomorrow, dude. We got to go to work, like, and we're just all stuck every day hoping our kids are going to be safe at school, hoping we can go to a movie without having that happen. You're not safe at the movies. You're not safe at church. You're not safe at school. You're not safe in a grocery store. You're not safe at a country music concert. That guy was pissed. He lost all his money to the... You know what I mean? So it could be non-political, it's most unpolitical.
Sure.
But then you have to recognize that it is political, because there's one political coalition that says, no, it's totally fine to saturate the country and have more firearms than people.
So is there anything, just out of curiosity, is there anything like on the left that you would say the left always does this, or the left is vast majority of the left is in this? Or...
Get a leftist to complain about the left. And that's the thing. We're almost more comfortable doing that right now, because like the right is literally out for blood. A bunch of historically black colleges were targeted with bomb threats the day after Kirk was killed. A black student was found hanging in Alabama the day after Kirk was killed. So, the left will sit around and talk all day long about what's wrong with the left. Communists hate liberals, and liberals hate communists, and the communists hate anarchists, and the anarchists hate them back, and the socialists are just libs according to the communists, and you have all the people who are more anti-imperialist and decolonial, and you have all the people who are just like, can we stop talking about race all the time and talk about the class war? And you're a class reductionist. Well, you're a race reductionist. And if you spend time in the online left, you're just going to hear that endlessly back and forth, that the left is more comfortable criticizing itself and each other, and it's funny. I was having an argument once not too long ago with a guy who I grew up around, going to school with, and he's a self-described fascist. And when people tell me nobody's a fascist, you can't just call everyone a fascist, bro. Like, no, man, I know people who self-identify. And they're on the right, and they're self-identified fascist. And again, this is just a kid I grew up with in Orchid, right? Sure. And this was after Biden won. And he's like, he's like, you people on the left, you always coalesce, could just get behind your guy. And I was like, that's what we say about you, So it's just one of these things where each side of the political fence has its factionalism, has its extreme signs. For me, like I've seen a lot of people online, they will say, it's not left and right. It's like top versus bottom. It's us versus them. Like the everyone versus the ruling class, the 1%, the top 1/10 of 1%. And I have to bring people back to, there's only one political coalition that's interested in addressing that power, of capital and of the wealth class, and that's the left. It's not Kamala Harris or centrist liberals who just think if we have more diversity on boardrooms, then everything will be fine. Technocrats, if we turn this knob or that knob, things will be better. And
conservatives are generally in favor of capitalism. So of course the left is going to be more.
But so are liberals, and I don't see serious critiques of capitalism coming out of Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris, right? They, and I do think a big reason that it's not just capitalism; it's the empire and our militaristic empire that we maintain worldwide. They're like, it was kind of laid bare in this last election how little room there is between the Democrats and the Republicans when it comes to the foreign policy, and that was the case with again, people are watching like the most horrific violence you could imagine coming out of Israel and what is being done to Gaza, and the answer on the Democratic side is we're not going to talk about that at all. And Kamala Harris was on The View. That was her big moment. Really, that was her biggest audience, and if people weren't watching, then they would see the clip. And they asked her, "Is there anything at all you would do differently? Anything?" Yeah. She was like, "No."
She's playing it safe.
Can't think of anything.
Yeah.
And
trying to win an election.
It's insane to me that the Democrats have now represent the status quo more than Republicans. Like the Republicans, at least Trump at least represents, like, I'm going to drain the swamp, I'm going to do whatever. He's saying things are going to be different. And then people get what they, wanted.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no, I didn't want this. I didn't think you were going to take away my immigrant wife or friend or fan or whatever. Yeah. I didn't think you were going to cut my farm subsidies. I didn't think you were going to cut my health care. There was a quote from a woman in Florida during Trump Part 1, and she said, I can't believe, like, Trump's doing this to us, to me. He's hurting the wrong people. Mm-hmm. She said that. He's hurting the wrong people. And that just tells me, he's going to hurt people. And again, like, there's that old meme, like, I can't believe the leopards ate my face, said the lady who voted for the leopards eating face party.
Right.
And, it's just like, and the Democrats their answer is always just to run to the right. Well, how are we going to constructively hate immigrants and kick trans people out of the coalition? How are we...
that's what the Democrats are doing, you said?
Yeah. There was a Palestinian woman who was going to speak from Ilhan Omar's district, who was going to speak at the DNC, and they blocked her out. Mm-hmm. There's no, like, I'm a leftist. I do not feel like there's any home for me in the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. And that, everybody saw it with the way the powers that be converged against Bernie Sanders. Yeah. I don't think that primary was rigged. I don't think it was cheated, but that was politics and how politics work. You're telling me right before Super Tuesday, everybody drops out,
right,
to give Biden the clean sweep? Mm-hmm. Like, go watch Pete Buttigieg's speech when he's saying he's dropping out and endorsing Biden. I don't think there's ever been a guy who more wanted to be president. And you could hear him holding back the tears.
Sure.
That, like, he did not want to do that.
No.
But, who knows? Phone call from Obama or whoever else.
Yeah.
Like, get out of the way. The only person who stuck in was Elizabeth Warren. Mm-hmm. The other so-called progressive who said that Bernie said some sexist stuff. Right, so she was,
which is always fun when they start slinging mud just to
a spoiler cannon.
Get above them all. Come on.
But it's like, that's American politics,
right?
And, like, if you want to talk about the left, like, having no place, this goes back to '68 and the division between the old New Deal Union liberals. Mm-hmm. Who were all ready to go to Vietnam. Hey, we're making these bombs in these airplanes. What are you talking about, you kids?
Yeah.
Why do you think the colleges are the enemy? Mm-hmm. I mean, we're on repeat, man. Like, the colleges have radicalized our kids. Our daughters are burning their bras and boys are burning their draft cards. Well, does it have anything to do with the slaughter that's going on in Vietnam? Mm-hmm. Tens of millions of people just ground into nothing by the imperial project, but you know what I mean? Like, like, that was nothing cold about that part of the Cold War, right? Mm. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with that. That why they no, it's just college.
Yeah,
they killed the state soldiers, killed children or killed college students at Kent State. Yeah. That's the country we live in. It's the largest, most expansive, wealthiest empire in world history. We're sitting in it. We're sitting in one of the wealthiest states within that.
Yeah.
And if you say that, you're I mean, it's crazy because now with online you can hear from people. Used to be you only ever heard from Noam Chomsky or whatever,
right.
Because you found it on a public access channel,
right.
or
through a punk band.
Yeah, a punk
that's how I heard it.
That's what punk was raging against the machine.
Yeah, right.
I'm an anarchist. I'm the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. As an atheist, I get annoyed with, like, Satanism as that, like, anti-religious thing, because I think it's stupid and childish, because I don't think, I've had...
Well, because you obviously don't believe in Satan either.
No, exactly. I don't believe in that chump either.
Right.
And even, like, the Satanists who try to get, like, a Baphomet statue put up somewhere next to the Ten Commandments, they go, well, we don't believe in them either. We just do this.
Just trying to make a point.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what
you can't have it for one, but not for the other.
The flying spaghetti monster and all that stuff.
Right.
And it's just like... this is why it's so frustrating. I'm a leftist. What does that mean? I have principles and ideals, fundamental human rights, universal human rights. All human beings have value. Why? Because we're human beings. That's it.
Right.
End of story.
Yeah. But do you think there's a side that doesn't believe what you just said?
Yeah.
Who?
I mean, liberals didn't seem to care at all about what's happening to Gazan children and women.
Like they don't care at all, or they think that it's retaliation.
Some of them
something.
some of Democratic and Republican politicians were signing bombs that we were sending over there.
Okay.
And you want to tell us political violence is so out of control. You're signing bombs.
Yeah.
And it's not.
But without knowing the reason why, it's hard for me to say, well, they don't care. They're over there watching children die, and they're going, ha, 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 yes, got another one. That's a different, painting a picture than just they're signing.
Because I know enough people, and I've argued how to, I'm not the type of person to completely excommunicate people from my life.
Sure.
And I feel like I learn more from people, even if I don't agree with them.
Sure.
I know Zionists. And they celebrated it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said, I'm glad, and I don't care at all about what's being done to them, because tit for tat.
Yeah.
So it's I got into it once at Cal Poly in grad school with somebody, and it was not a right-winger who was telling me, to stop repeating Hamas propaganda. It was a liberal, Zionist.
Yeah.
Who this is where the left leaves me. Okay, man. Okay.
Do you think that's minority though of the country in general? Like the people that would say that kind of a thing.
So here's the other thing. We have I mentioned my morbid curiosity when I was young. Mm-hmm. Part of what led me into journalism was you get interested in true crime.
Yeah.
True crime's interesting.
I love it.
That's an evergreen. Even before America, we know about Jack the Ripper because there was true crime reporting going on at the time.
Right.
And you learn about, oh my gosh, learning about serial killers and just holy cow, you mean this is just this thing that happens? Some people are so sick and twisted that they do. Yes, and right? And Mindhunter is a fun show to watch on Netflix. It's about the behavioral science unit of the FBI who came up with psychological profiling and all that stuff. But when you learn true crime, you learn a thing or two about this country.
Yeah.
And there's a term in true crime called the less dead. Have you heard that? The less dead.
I've heard the mostly dead from Princess Bride.
Yeah, so there's the less dead. And that's a term used in true crime for people who, when they disappear, when they go missing,
nobody's looking for them.
Nobody's looking for them.
Like homeless, maybe, or...
The Green River Killer was one of the most prolific, and he targeted black sex workers.
Right.
And, the police weren't motivated at all to find them.
Yeah.
Or, no. Yeah. But, we know about it, it's national news when a young white girl goes missing, but that empathy is not extended to everybody. Multiple people have died in ICE detention. Multiple. They built a camp that they gloated is surrounded by apex predators, alligators, and they celebrated that. Took pictures at the sign. Okay, that to me, I'm a secular person, but that is, and I don't use this word lightly, but that's evil, man. That's evil. And then you have, the man in Camarillo who fell off the roof because ICE came, and he wouldn't have fallen off that roof if federal agents hadn't arrived. The day after Kirk was murdered, a man was shot to death in Chicago by ICE for resisting arrest. So we have the people who, violence against them, that's too bad. And that was another thing that a lot of people suffered the wrath of the online MAGA get you fired mob was by saying that, didn't Charlie Kirk say something about this? I'm afraid for even to put this in the podcast, man.
Oh, I know what you're talking
about. Oh, hey, this is the price to pay for freedom.
Yeah, right.
There is if civilization is a massive machine, there are all kinds of people who are ground up in the gears of it and just spit out like chaff.
Yep.
And we just keep rolling with it. Oh, this didn't happen to me. I gotta go to work tomorrow. And all the more than 1 million people, probably more than 2 now, have died just as a direct result of the war in Iraq. We're still there. We're still there. What did it have to do with 9/11? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Even most of the 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, and they were in the Mujahideen, which actually got if you go back far enough, they were trained by the CIA during the Cold War to get rid of the Soviets. But now we make wholesome movies. Tom Hanks plays the senator who helped get them. Charlie Wilson's War. We're gonna golly gosh, wasn't it the most beloved actor is going to play this senator who was helping fund the Mujahideen, train them to engage in asymmetrical warfare, like this, and it just throws people into a rage if you want to sit and understand that and think about that or voice it. Like you can't even point out. We live in a, we're living at in this modern time. But the country is very young. The modern concept of the nation state is very young. It's a brand new idea. And, once you learn about the legacy of settler colonial violence, the passive violence of pathogens and which indigenous scholars have called a biological holocaust, to the outright, slaughter. There's a book called An American Genocide, and it's just about California and what was done here.
Who wrote that?
Benjamin Madley.
Okay.
And we name our towns and after the American military men who came through here and slaughtered people. Fremont, John C. Fremont, was 1849, gold is discovered here, the 49ers, right? 1850, it's a U.S. state. You think that's a coincidence? Spanish colonization wasn't that openly genocidal. They were trying to make the indigenous people the labor force. That's what the missions were about. That's what I study. And the genocide doesn't kick into high gear. Like, the indigenous people were still slaughtered by the biological aspects. They were dehumanized by the whole process of Spanish colonization. There were things like, at a mission or at a pueblo somewhere, men dumping the food for the indigenous people into troughs, dehumanizing them, calling them animals. But it's not, once the U.S. arrives here, hey, we're not interested in intermixing with anybody or putting them to work. We have other people to do the work for us. We're going to slaughter all these people. So that's the country we live in. The Cold War, once you go through the history of the Cold War, the mass killings across Central and South America, Asia, go read The Jakarta Method by Vincent Bevins about what happened in Indonesia. After a military dictatorship was established there. They disappear your friends in the night. And then, and it's a complete reign of terror. What does that sound like? But, it's horrifying. And meanwhile, in 1965, Walt Disney at Disneyland is premiering It's a Small World. Where he's parading people, on their way to the ride down Main Street, USA, with people in their traditional garb, and all these people in what our idea of how they should be depicted as little puppets dancing for world peace. Meanwhile, what's going on in Vietnam? That's America, man. Like, that's the duality of this country, and we either sit with it or we don't. We either say this is the greatest country of all time, American exceptionalism. If you say anything else, well, F you. You know what I mean?
Maybe that was a call for that piece. Maybe that was like, if we could all just be little dancing dolls that sing about our similarities.
He said that. He kind of said it's a hymn for world peace.
I mean, he could have made a ride that was all about the Vietnam War, but I don't think kids would have liked riding a boat for that.
No, but the Jungle Cruise, for instance. They only just updated it a few years ago, where they had very troubling depictions of headhunters. And also you can traverse.
But wasn't that more accurate? To the time frame?
No.
You don't think so? Okay.
Absolutely.
So now they have to put a person of every race up the pole.
I'm thinking about writing a video or doing a video essay about this. The Jungle Cruise takes you in this tropical river, and you see jaguars from South America. You see, bull elephants from Africa, and then you see Siberian tigers you'd find in India
from Siberia.
Yeah, but or you find Bengal tigers rather from India that completely flattens the global south into one little ride that's the wild jungle and headhunters and there's a reason why Americans that we think the way that we do, and that we think, that just the term first world, second world, third world, right? We defined ourselves and the rest of capitalist Europe as this is it, man, this is it, and then you have these commies. Well, these Russian ones, they're white, so I guess we'll consider them. They're really the ones we have to contend with. So that's the second world. Everybody else, everywhere else, is the third world. Let's ignore the history of colonization, of imperialism. And again, when you're a left-wing person, you're the person always ranting about colonization and imperialism and using all these big fancy words that most people don't understand. And again, our education system's been systematically destroyed, so now illiteracy is higher than it's been in generations. We also have these billionaire overlords that run the very means with which we understand our world. These phones, they funnel the information to us. That's what in that song I wrote. I tried to lay out a lot of what I think about what's going on.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But it's like,
I'll have to put a link to that in the podcast notes.
I appreciate it, but it's like, if you want to think critically about this country, like, I'm here for you. Let's do it together.
Sure. Or the back and forth.
Yeah, but we're in this back and forth, and I hear like there is a cross section of people on the right who are concerned about the elites. They're concerned about finance capital, like private equity, like BlackRock or Black whatever it's called, Stone or whatever. Like, they're concerned about that stuff. But like, you have to go to the actual left, and again, like, you're not going to find these people talking on MSNBC and the supposedly left-leaning or liberal-leaning corporate media. Going to corporate media for news is like going to corporate restaurants like McDonald's for nutrition.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna get it there, man.
Unless you get a salad.
Sure, maybe.
Even then, it's probably synthetic.
You have to be critical all the time. I'm critical of everything I read, every outlet, every article, every journalist. You have to be critical of, and you have to think critically about it. That's part of why, because I'm an agnostic atheist, I'm critical of everything. And I'll like, people like to if I could just like add like a little thing on the end, like,
sure,
I don't know, like I said, being on the left is like, it's like no fun, because you have all this work to do to learn, there are guys who just sit around and talk theory all day. Right. There are guys like me who like to talk history or look at different things. But, generally speaking, we tend to have an ideology that is not, that is humanistic and solidaristic for everybody. Sure. And it cares about the collective and not just the individual. Okay. And we now live in this society where we're all atomized and individuated and farther removed, and now we have all these market incentives for us to be that way, like social media, and I think that the pandemic like poured gasoline on a problem that already existed, which was just we're hardly existing in community anymore. You know what I mean, or less and less rather. And when you're actually attached to community, and the people around you, the people in your neighborhood, the people in different organizations in your community, like, the online world removes us from that. And it does. That's what's difficult. And having conversations like this is good.
That's why I tell people, get out, talk to people in your town, go meet people, hang out, get coffee and just chat.
It keeps you from getting too internet brained too. Like when you hear what normal other people are thinking or saying.
Well, because most of that is false anyway. Like even people that are real people, they're hiding behind their username or whatever. That's why some of the most hateful things you've ever seen is by anonymous member 37 or something. It's never by John Jacobs or whatever,
you know. An anime avatar for something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you would never say that to that person's face, and you know it.
Yes.
Right? You're only saying it online because you can hide.
Well, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's like, but again, like we've existed in a way where systemically, people are dehumanized, they're ignored.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like again, the less dead, and that idea of true crime, or like the idea that people overseas, well, those are the people who we accept them dying.
Right.
That's the acceptable dead. You know, and
well, but like I think the difference is I look at people dying overseas, and it does break my heart. I do care, but I don't care like I do if my friend dies.
Well, exactly.
Or if my dad dies or something. I mean, that's more close to home, right? That's like I know them, I love them, I care, but it doesn't mean I don't care about those people over there. But to those people over there, that's their deal, right? That does mean everything to them. That's their family, their friends, you know.
But we also have to grapple with the fact that violence comes home. Mm-hmm. That overseas violence comes home. And like a lot of people, it's like a known thing about the generation that came back from Vietnam. Yeah. And how messed up they were.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, even like down to like, I think it was like Richard Ramirez's, the serial killer, his like cousin or older sibling or cousin who was in Vietnam and like murdered his partner, domestic violence in front of Ramirez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like you can't tell me that wasn't affecting.
Of course.
I have family who served in the Second World War. They came home with post-traumatic stress.
Sure.
They ended their own lives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so and again, it's the working class that suffers the brunt of that.
Right.
And like our parents' generation, that kind of Reagan generation, it's morning in America. Like, and it's part of the perniciousness of neoliberalism is that it's depoliticizing. My parents were very depoliticized. My parents never told me we are this. Mm-hmm. We believe that. Never once. Not about religion, not about politics. They didn't say we're Democrats.
Yeah.
They did not. They none of them. Neither of my parents were in a labor union. Mm-hmm. Neither of my parents, volunteered for a political party or anything like that.
They took you to church, though, you said.
But they took me to like a unity church. And we'll get into that. But just to finish the thought of like depoliticization, I went and found my grandmother's obituary. Going to the Santa Maria Public Library. And
it's a great place.
It is.
Great people work there.
Of course, I know. Wonderful people. The best. Beautiful people.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Thank you. We love the Santa Maria Public Library.
That one is great.
We love library. But so you're able to look at the Santa Maria Times archives, and I found my grandmother's obituary.
Okay.
And she was giving a shout out to her union. Proud rep for the whatever local 215 or whatever it was, and it said always an advocate of the little guy. Yeah, she was a proud member. So she was of that generation that had to mobilize. Yeah, American progressivism mobilized to put down the fascist threat, right? And the threat of authoritarian imperialism for our more liberal capitalistic form of imperialism, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, that's like, that's like where, a thing where you realize that you have a whole generation of people who depoliticize. Oh, we don't talk about politics. Oh, and they don't see the politics all around them, that there is politics to many things in your life. There are decisions that led to it. Yep. We used to have union halls all across the country. You used to have more places where you could be in community or get a free hot dog, or a free barbecue meal and be around, hear some music, and, you know what I mean? And it's like fewer and fewer of those left. And because they were systemically and systematically targeted and defanged, because the left gets in the way, collective power, left-wing power gets in the way of profit. Yeah. And trickle-down economics, well, we saw it wasn't trickle down. It was transfer up.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many things do we have to list? Whether it's the minimum wage, the wealth being more outpaced, or it's more stripped to the top than during the Gilded Age, all of that, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, my parents took me to Unity.
Okay. How old were you at that point?
Chapel of Light. I was like a little kid.
Okay.
And then we would off and on go there. But again, that was very like non-denominational, man. Like,
oh yeah,
you know, 1 week
I think hippie church is pretty accurate.
Yeah,
hippie church.
I called it hippie church, but it's like, you know, the pastor there at the time, you know, he grew up Jewish, but he's like a Unity pastor.
Yeah.
So like, totally non-denominational.
Sure.
He'll read from the New Testament, Psalms. He'll talk about what Jesus said. Then he's talking about Thich Nhat Hanh or Krishnamurti.
Yeah.
Or
it's like a melding of a bunch of faiths.
Like there was a Jewish family there who would do Kabbalah chanting, and you had people who were into the Vedas, and you know, it was like
Darth Vader.
No, like the Hindu Vedas. Yeah, Darth Vader. You know, it was like, come one, come all.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was never told this is what we believe, this is what we are. But then as I grew up, I had neighbors who were that way.
Okay.
We are this.
Yeah.
Come to our church. You should take an oath here at this church.
Yeah.
And pledge yourself to.
Yeah. And you like that. You like that a lot, it sounds like.
I did not.
Oh, you did? Oh.
No, my parents didn't like that. Okay. I had a friend who this is the kid I'm friends with at school. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And the parents invited my parents and us to their church. And, you know, me and the friend went off to play Legos or something in the kids' room. And then it was like, you know, the parents, and then it was that big moment where everybody come on stage and pledge yourself and say you're saved. If you haven't done that, now it's your time.
Right.
And
raise your hand,
my
close your
friends'
eyes.
Parents were kind of side-eyeing my parents, and they didn't get up and do that.
Okay. Did they get up and leave?
No.
That would have been better.
Yeah, right.
We're out of here.
Yeah. No, they didn't do that.
I'm going to stand up. Psych! I'm heading to the door.
They just run, leave me behind.
Yeah.
We're done. You know,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
But no, they, you know, and then I didn't hang out as much with that friend anymore, unfortunately. So I didn't understand why.
Okay.
You know.
So if we remove religion completely, just for a second.
Sure.
And we just talk about the concept of God or intelligent design or whatever you want to call it. Like, what are your... Well, first of all, would you agree with something like intelligent design? And if not, what would be your critiques against it?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean, and you know, it's like... so, I mentioned depoliticization earlier. So, like, during the Obama years... You know, I had always been kind of liberal left. I was less thoughtful about it. I wasn't, you know, I've moved more into the Bernie Sanders camp since then. Okay. But, you know, and you hear it vocalized by people like, let's vote for Joe Biden. We can all go back to brunch. We would all be at brunch right now instead of at a, and that's something leftists crap on liberals for. But
I like brunch.
Yeah,
brunch is good.
Great. Yeah. But I was kind of politically asleep under Obama.
Okay.
Wasn't... You know, I mean, I started paying attention because like Occupy Wall Street and whatnot, but I got really into the whole new atheism thing. Okay. And before that, I grew up like just, I don't really believe in that, or I don't really believe in any one religion. And then my first couple of years of college, I remember I went to Hancock, and it was astronomy class, and there was a Big Bang lecture. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. Yeah. So I might have... you know, partaken of a certain herbal supplement on the way.
Heroin?
No, that's not herbal. That's not very herbal to me. But so, you know, enjoying my rights as a Californian. Sure. And then I sat in the Big Bang class. Far out, man. Whoa, dude. You know, and maybe that's God, man. That's what God is. Yeah. And, you know, you hear people say God is everything. God is love. They don't want to prescribe to a religion. You can do the, you know, I'm spiritual. Right. I'm this, I'm that. Right. And that's cool and everything. But, you know, and I thought that way for a while. And, you know, I think that's a fine way to be, or a fine way to think. You know, Buddhism seemed interesting. Taoism seemed interesting. I read the Tao Te Ching. But even then, that stuff isn't super concerned with what is outside what we experience, what we're not seeing, you know?
Yeah.
But like, you know, so thinking about like that, like that we can, with hard evidence, understand the beginning of the cosmos, you know?
Yeah.
Einstein predicted gravitational waves, which we've now, with general relativity, which we've now observed, you know? Years ago, and then hearing all the new atheism talk, like, you know, I thought it was interesting because, you know, also you grow up in a town like this, you're told this is a conservative town. That's just the way it is. Yeah, I had one guy tell me once, boy, if when I was your age, if I had my hair as long as you, somebody would throw me in the back of their truck and take me over the Santa Maria Bridge. And say, don't come back until you come. Like the movie Rambo or something.
Right.
First Blood. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, like, you know, like, being antagonistic, when that political coalition is overtly religious and using religious language.
Sure.
You know, like, you know, George W. Bush talking about the axis of evil and all this stuff. Holy war, using terms like that.
Yeah.
It becomes it is kind of a way of being a left-wing reactionary, where you're just like, by being openly not that, by being anti-religious, you feel like you're doing something.
Sure.
I now don't think there's much politics there at all.
Okay.
And in fact, I don't think that's what I would argue my politics around. You know, it's like, it's not a coincidence that a lot of like online atheists became infatuated with Trumpism because they realized, well, who's going to attack Muslims more? Because that's that's what activated them for their atheism, was like, I hate Islam,
right? You
know, and maybe they feel certain ways about whatever, them trying to get Bibles in schools, or like what's going on in Oklahoma, but you know, but for me it was like, you know, I just had to sit with it and just be like, I'm just putting the word God onto this other thing that I don't necessarily...
I mean the Big Bang in this
case?
Okay.
The cosmos. Why are we here? What is
right.
Like, what is existence? What is time? What is...
Well, that's kind of what my question about intelligent design is really getting at. Because like we agree we're all here, right? And then, but when we talk about how we got here, then you have myriads of different theories and beliefs, which is great. I mean, it's awesome to have that critical thinking in that area. Yeah. But I guess for me, when we talk about like intelligent design, like is it? I'm not talking about like 100% hard evidence on either side of anything. I'm just saying, like, does it sound plausible that everything that you see around you didn't have any creator? It just randomly, no intelligence behind it, no anything. It just poof appeared one day.
It didn't just poof appear one day. It was,
or gradually over billions of years. Sure.
We can't even comprehend the amount of time,
right?
Because it is such amount of time,
right? But with no intelligence,
looking at the world the way it is, and how chaotic and insane and stupid and ridiculous and strange, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's most likely. That there's nothing guiding it. Or this is the thing.
Well,
I wouldn't say there's nothing guiding it. There's natural laws, and entropy, and other things like that.
But you'd say those came from non-intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a deep psychological need that human beings have, because we're Homo sapiens sapiens. We're the ape that is aware that we're aware. We even we're aware of death. I don't think we're the only animal that's aware of it either. That death is an inevitability.
Dogs and cats crawl off somewhere and die. So
they mourn their dead. Yeah. Elephants mourn their dead.
Yeah.
Like
I've seen those videos. It's sad.
We have social. We're a social mammal.
Sure.
You know, we're a social species. We're a mammal.
Sure.
And I think that it's really hard for people to grip with. There's nobody there who's going to tuck us in at night.
Yeah.
There's nobody who at the end of the day cares about you. No, you could die in a ditch.
Sure.
You could a rock could fall off or whatever.
Right.
There's no rhyme or reason. Some things, terrible things happen, and there's no rhyme or reason for it whatsoever. And it's like, we want. To me, the idea of God and even that intelligent design is just a watered down version of it. We're personifying that emptiness that is there.
Yeah. That's part of it.
Whatever happened in the beginning of time and how this started, who knows?
Right.
Like maybe it's not even for us to know. And because maybe it literally is unknowable. It's nothing. Maybe there's literally nothing there. And by nothing, we mean nothing. Like nothing we could ever comprehend or anything at all. Just like, I know people who claim to have past life experiences. I think that dreams are very powerful. I think our brain is an insanely complex and powerful thing. And I think at night when we sleep, our brain is releasing endogenous neurotransmitters that literally make us trip out. And
sure.
Sometimes obviously we're running simulations. Our brain is just running simulations, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. You have dreams that don't mean a thing. You have dreams that seem very meaningful and potent, if you even remember them.
I rarely remember.
Me neither.
Dreams.
Most of us don't.
Yeah.
But
my daughter all the time.
Yes,
my wife pretty often. Yeah.
Well, that dream journaling is supposed to help you with that.
Okay. Yeah. But to say that our whatever you just worded, our brains are so complex and amazing, and they're capable of all this stuff. But then to say that came from literally nothing.
Didn't come from nothing.
What did it come from?
Came from natural processes and biological reproduction, which came from chemical processes and.
But you don't see so let me ask this question then. So when you look at. Well, this is an example I always use, but I'll use it anyway. So if we look at anything in this room, for now we're going to leave nature out of the picture, but anything in this room.
How could you do that?
Just for a second.
Okay.
We'll get there, but first I just want to look at things that are within this here. So you got a table, you got a microphone, you got your chai cup there, you got a laptop, a chair, all this stuff, right?
And two biological creatures who are defining those things as such.
But we're not going to talk about us just yet.
Oh, okay. That's
just
strange.
These things. I know it is.
I don't know how you could possibly do that, but go on.
I can't, but we will.
I'll accept it.
So just talking about these things that are tangible, that we can touch and we can see, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. We are defining what they are. Right. Mm-hmm. But my point is, if either of us were to come up with a theory that said over mass amounts of time, these things just appeared here without any intelligence, without any people building them, without any people putting thought into making a table because they realize I have nowhere to put my chai cup. I need a table, or whatever. Yeah, we'll call it a table, we'll call it whatever. But we make it, and then we say, I would assume if I was to say that, pose that to you, you'd say, well, Ryan, that's idiotic. I know that somebody built that out of wood. They put four legs on it so it would stand up and hold the chai. Right? That all makes sense. Yeah. But then when we look at something like you and me, who are vastly more complex than this table, obviously, we have brainwaves and thoughts and emotions and all these things that go into a human, right? Life experience, all this stuff. And then we say, but we came from just natural process with no intelligence behind it, nothing thinking, I'm going to build that person. Like that, Well, anything. Like it just, to me, to be honest, that sounds like crazy to me. It's one thing to say I don't believe in Christianity or I don't believe in Islam, I don't believe in God. But that's why intelligent design. That's why so many atheists have kind of jumped onto the intelligent design wagon.
I'm not aware of many.
There's quite a few.
I'm not aware of them.
One was very, very prominent. I forgot his name now. But he jumped on that wagon just to say the evidence that we see points to an intelligent designer. Now, whether that's space aliens or it's whatever.
Time for this conceit, for me to accept this conceit that you've asked me to, you had to rule out the natural world entirely. Which, even though we're in a completely artifice environment of a house, the created environment, there's still oxygen molecules bouncing around. There's still all the natural things the materials that these.
And I wasn't ruling that out.
These devices are made for.
I was just going to get there next.
But again, my point is, you have to compare those things to nature, which is unguided. right?
Well, I don't know. You mentioned oxygen particles, which we just happen to need to breathe, right? We live in a world where there's certain kinds of food that has certain nutrients and vitamins that our bodies just happen to need. We have water, which we just happen to need. The climate is a certain way that just happens to be perfect for human life.
But it wasn't always this way, and we know that from the...
Well, there's been ice ages,
record.
There's been...
Yeah, but even before that, there was a time before there were even flowering plants. Mm-hmm. There was, like, the earliest plants were ferns, and even before the first ferns developed on land, there were mushrooms.
Okay.
There was fungus that spread across the landmass out of the oceans,
right.
And that's where some of the first oxygen in the environment comes from, is from fungi.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
but that seems like a grand, like, plan to randomly happen.
So when I go look at the Grand Canyon, did somebody have to think each crevice in the Grand Canyon, have to plan it and decide it was going to be that way? Or did drops of water carve out pieces of rock?
Sure.
With no brain or mind involved at all?
Yeah, in that scenario, that's one possibility, sure.
Yeah, but
yeah.
So when you look at the Grand Canyon, you're seeing the deep time illustrated for you. Mm-hmm. You're seeing this mass expanse of time and natural process.
Right.
And you know, the river at the bottom has a whole ecosystem, and you know, you could have fish in there going, you're telling me this river just happens to exist in just this way with all these nutrients in it that we enjoy every day just for nothing? Come on.
Yeah.
And it's because, you know, it's, you know, Christopher Hitchens again pointed out, like, you know, it's very easy for us as the thinking biological creatures on this planet to say, well, this must have been designed this way. When we look at our own solar system, when we look out across the expanse of the cosmos, we it looks like there might be some evidence of biological life recently discovered on Mars, which would have been world-shattering news if we hadn't been in this political moment that we're in.
Right. Yeah, nobody cares about stuff in space anymore.
Well, but I also know people who their only interface with politics is like having to do with UFOs or UAEs, as they call them now. Yeah. And my opinion is, if you're talking about UFOs, you're not talking about CEOs. Okay.
Yeah.
And we one is real or an actual problem, and one is not.
So CEOs and UFOs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, if you're talking about UFOs, you ain't talking about CEOs. And guess what? One of those two has a real effect on your life, and the other is a lot of fun sitting around thinking about.
Yeah.
As far as and again, now we know with antimatter that for there to be matter, there has to be tons of not matter at all. For there to be life on this planet, we have to be in this Goldilocks zone. If it's just a little too hot on Venus, you'll get crushed flat. If it's a little too cold over here, you know, Mars, if Mars had some kind of biological life on it, something happened, natural processes that it killed their atmosphere, and it's dead now. So you have different ideas. There's like undirected panspermia. There's panspermia, like some alien, some weird alien Johnny Appleseed type character went around on a spaceship bajillions of years ago, spreading seeds everywhere, and we're just their offspring. There's undirected panspermia, that the first biological life, maybe it was on Mars, then a massive meteor hits Mars and takes pieces of that, ends up here, and then that evolves here. Totally possible. Totally possible that the first self-replicating molecules, which is, that's what the beginning of biological life really is self-replicating molecules.
So those are all possible, but like in your opinion, are they more plausible?
Well, we have evidence for them.
Okay.
There's actually evidence. There's a fossil record. And, you know, we used to argue about humans evolving from apes, and that is been backed off of, because now we have so much evidence in the fossil record. I studied anthropology. I looked at the Australopithecines and Homo chilensis and Homo ramidus and Homo. You know, you can watch. You know, the main hole in our skull at the bottom that our spine sits on top of is called the foramen magnum, and we can watch it in the fossil record move from the back of the skull of quadrupedal primates and slowly move along the back of the skull down into the occipital region until it's at the the bottom of the skull, and then we can see Homo chadensis, which we know is bipedal because of the formation of the hip bone, and and we can see our evolution now, and we understand it. We now know that a 250,000 years ago there were other human species that were not Homo sapiens. There were Neanderthals. There was Homo erectus. There was Homo floresiensis, the Hobbit man, who was trapped on an island, so they shrunk down
with hairy feet.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Tolkien knew it. That's what they call him that because of Tolkien.
Yeah, right.
But we had little people, and they had a arrowhead industry that rivaled the advanced Homo sapiens.
So, what are your thoughts on all of the hoaxes that they've had? Not hoaxes, but like direct tampering with bones and things. Have you seen any of that, like Nebraska Man or
some of that? I mean,
So why are they doing that?
We grew up with people thinking Sasquatch is real. Like, there's always been cryptozoology.
Well, but I mean, I believe it's Nebraska. I could be wrong on which one, but I think it's Nebraska Man, where they found a tooth, and they basically constructed a whole. You go to the museum, and there's a whole man. He's got his family. They got the tools. They're cooking food, and then they found out that the tooth wasn't even a human tooth. It was a pig tooth.
Well, that's why anthropology and science is a discipline, and you have people who actually go in and want to work to disprove somebody. Because you have people who don't want to do the work. You have plagiarizers, you have liars, you have all of that, but then you have other people right behind them checking their science. Either they like, if it's replicable, then see,
that's what's difficult, right? Is something being replicable that you're studying bones from however long ago.
So Homo chadensis discovered in Chad, modern day Chad, and if that fossil is there, there's like Lucy and all these other ones.
Right.
If you go back to that area and keep looking, and you find more of the same, then you've replicated that. But not only have we done that, but then they've done where you're seeing, again, biological life is not directed. So you have all of these outcrops and strange happenstances, and where subspecies or outcroppings of biology. For instance, your little Pekingese here, adorable by the way, coyotes that would eat her in a second, who are we all go to sleep within a mile of coyote, and the timber wolf, all can interbreed and have offspring together.
Yes.
Domesticated dogs, wild coyote, and wild wolves can all interbreed and have viable offspring.
But a cat can't with a dog type.
No, because they're not. Their common ancestors not that.
Right.
That
is it species or kind? Which one is it?
Species. Those are species. Gotcha. Kind is language that comes from the Bible. Species is a scientific. It's Linnaean classification. And I just read a whole book in grad
Kind's
school.
not in the science. I thought that I learned that in science class. Genus, kind. Isn't kind in there?
No, I don't think.
Genus, phylus.
No, it's like genus. There's
years ago.
I used to remember. There's an acronym. Okay. There's an.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Phylum. Whatever.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm not an expert on it. I'm not a biologist, but and again, like, the refusal to understand science, well, it's difficult. And it does have issues. Like, I just read a whole book about how Carl Linnaeus, the guy who came up with Linnaean classification, did so in a specific time and context where he was putting his own values and thoughts into, like, how we even think of biological life. So there's biases. Don't get me wrong. We got to be critical all the time. But, like, if we're looking at evolution and we just see most species are extinct, there are a bunch of other human species that are extinct. They're like, as European descended people, you and I, we have Neanderthal DNA swimming around in our blood.
Hey, speak for yourself, man.
No, we do, man. It's just a fact. That's where maybe that explains something. But here's the thing: people think of Neanderthals a certain way, but Neanderthals had a larger brain case than us. They buried their dead with finery and jewelry. They had musical instruments.
See, that I can agree with you on.
Some of them.
I think man has been degenerating from day one. Seriously, like, we present like these cavemen, like, fire, like these idiots, right? I bet you they were smarter than we are.
Well, I mean, what is intelligence, and what is it good for? What we're like, we put values on intelligence,
right?
And this is the thing: like, we're an animal, the majority, like modern life and this self-awareness that we have, that's again a blip. If we're going to have the timeline of just human existence, of human-like species existence, we're the last blade of grass at the very last bit of the end zone, right? The majority of all human time has been in hunter-gatherer bands, right? And doing all kinds of, having tons of different configurations of how we exist. And, you know, someone who's a secular humanist, a materialist, we recognize that how we think and feel about the world is very much tied to our environment and to the conditions. You know, people who think and feel a certain type of way in this kind of climate and plentifulness of food and resources versus how they might be in another area. We manage to adapt to just about everything, and, you know, we can live in insane environments, from the Arctic, Inuit people in the Arctic, to people who can do long distance running across the desert.
Yeah.
You know, like what I mean?
That Dean guy?
Yeah.
You read about him? Dean something?
I don't know. But
the
you know,
Marathon
like,
Man or whatever they call him.
Sure. Yeah.
Run through Death Valley. It's like 125 degrees, and he's eating a whole pizza while he's running. Gnarly, dude.
Or just, I mean, they're so, and within evolutionary biology, they look at all these different explanations for why. I don't tend to think it was any one thing, but it's just like this radiation of all these factors and possibilities. Again, we look at the Grand Canyon and see the river at the bottom and think, well, that was the goal, so that's what it was meant for. No, that's the outcome. We're the outcome. Life is a process. We're the outcome of it. So, like, that's a scary thing to sit and think, nobody's directing it. You're not going anywhere after. Like, this is actually it. That's my opinion. Like, that's how I feel.
You think that's scary?
No, well,
or you mean to others?
It's scary to people that, you know, I don't think most people that
want an afterlife.
Like, what's like, dying is scary, even though it's the safest thing you could do. Everyone has done it.
Not everybody's
everybody's done it. Everybody who ever came before us has done it.
But not everybody's scared of it, is my point.
Yes, very good. You know, like, there's the old fables, like, and the old man greeted death as a friend, and he walked, you know, peacefully with it. But, like, you know, it, like, coming to terms with that is scary. But then the heavier burden to me is, as a secular humanist and materialist and an atheist and an agnostic atheist. We can talk about the distinction, but this is it. This is it right now.
This human life
we're living in.
Maybe 85, 90 years.
The consciousness we have, animated matter, conscious through biology. And this is what's frustrating as a leftist, is heaven and hell is here, and we make it. Heaven and hell are ideas we came up with, but because we recognize that there is pain and suffering, but there's also joy and jubilation and happiness and togetherness. And I believe we could all be much closer to heaven if we acted in solidarity with one another. Doesn't matter what race they are, doesn't matter where they're from or who they are, what language they speak, or what religion they do believe in. We could all work together for a better world. John Lennon sang Imagine, right? We could have that, but we don't. But there are people insistent on making this hell on earth for us, and they feel like they have really good reasons for it.
They do.
But then there's also, like, you don't want to. That's very idealistic, you know. But it's like, and you even see that in scholarship. Like, I've talked to enough Chumash people as part of my scholarship, like a Chumash elder I interviewed on Political Payne, my YouTube channel, and, you know, she's like, we don't like being, or I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but you know, there's this thing that hippies and liberals and left-leaning people do, where, like, everything was great and peaceful and awesome when it was before colonization, and it's kind of like, hey, we're human beings too. Like, what do you think all those arrowheads were for? Just for deer? Like, we're just using them for deer.
For like, cleaning their fingernails. I think they're cleaning dirt out of their fingernails with them. Yeah,
but I mean, indigenous peoples had conflicts with each other. You know, but, you know, they were a lot more pragmatic. Like, sometimes they would get in a fight and they would just stop before anybody died. People get hurt and they go, whoa, okay. Let's figure it out.
You know, other tribes killed other tribes?
Oh, there were.
Oh, okay.
There definitely were, but there's also just a pragmatism. But there, you know, you look at anthropology and the literature around indigenous peoples throughout the world, there's some things that make us real uncomfortable as modern humanists, make me uncomfortable as a modern humanist, like infanticide, like geronticide, or where, hey man, they're getting too old, they're becoming a problem, we can't carry them around forever.
Right.
Let's take care of it.
Yeah.
That happens, and it's a sick it's a grim logic when you're that close to the bleeding edge of life and death.
Right.
But then we also find fossils of Neanderthals with no teeth, who had leg bones that showed they had been broken at some time, but they were but that's not what they died from.
Right.
So you had an elderly Neanderthal being cared for by their loved ones. Mm-hmm. So I tend to think like the good and bad of humanity, like we have the capability of both, and it's very much tied to like what are the conditions, what's our environment, what's our atmosphere, and that's just what we do. That's just what we do, and we're a social species, we have a fear center. There are biological reasons where I understand why people are afraid of people they don't know. Or aren't around. And if you put up images of people to be afraid of that don't look like you, it sets off that fear center of your brain. They've done psychological evaluations where, or testing, like this is psychological, controlled testing where you can get people's politics to shift conservative just by pumping a putrid smell into a room. You can give someone a questionnaire about certain things, and just by ramping up their level of disgust, they will take we need more punishment for crime. Yeah, we need this,
because they're in discomfort.
They're in discomfort, and there's disgust being felt there, and fear like that. That's how people. I remember like documentaries and other things about like Fox News and different, right-wing talk radio as being the politics of fear. Fear. Scary things happen, like they do all the time. But when if you try to just back away you're trying to be conscientious and back away your own feeling of, is this going to kill me right away? Having that animalistic threat response, you know what I mean? And you want to explain why. Why did this happen? Why did this crazy thing I just saw on TV, incredibly violent, happen? What are the factors that fell into trying to process it, understand it?
And those are different every time. The
higher brain
the situation.
Yeah. So, and that's what's difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why the chaos of the world, and we were not. There's a term in anthropology, Dunbar's number. It's 150 to 200. That's the amount of brain space you have for people, where you remember their name, you remember their face. I'm terrible with remembering people's names.
Me too.
And
I'm great with faces, though.
Yeah.
I see a guy I haven't seen since kindergarten.
What's your name?
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, I always hate that. What's your name again? But it's we did not evolve to not just be exposed to world events, but then now with social media, you're exposed to everybody else's thoughts. You might come across the most, whacked out, weird, strange, angry, sadistic, whatever person. Yeah. Man, that's just like too heavy a burden, I think, for most of us.
So what, real quick, I know you've got to go, but what, how do I word this? We were talking about like evolutionary biology, like a fossil record and people coming from apes to people.
Yeah. I mean, we are apes. We are apes right now. We're bipedal primates.
So would you say that's like 100% guaranteed thing as far as the evidence you've seen?
I mean, we're apes. Like the shape of our molars and our teeth.
Sure.
We share with chimpanzees or an ancestor.
But we're not chimpanzees.
No, but
you're saying we're
apes. Apes are a larger category.
Okay.
Right? Gorillas are apes. Orangutans are apes.
Yeah.
Chimpanzees are apes. We're apes.
Yeah. Unless you have a tail, in which case you're a monkey.
The only reason you can reach your hand completely behind your head is because we descended from brachiating primates, which swung from trees.
Right.
Sometimes kids are born and they have a junk DNA deformity, and they are born with a tail. Have you ever heard of that? Vestigial? Yeah. So
that's another one of those deformities or mutations that we talked about before.
But that's a malfunction in a natural process of our DNA replication.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll see a whale swimming through the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean, and they got weird little deformed legs hanging off of their front of their tail.
Sure.
Because they used to be like a weird rhinoceros type thing, a bajillion, a million.
So that's what I mean. So you would say that's 100% then.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no other option for you. Like if you,
that's in other what words, the evidence says.
Okay,
to me, it's not an opinion.
But like if you were to take
a fact, it's an observable fact.
Sure.
And if you have a God that made it that way to trick you and test you, that you really believe like this specific sect of this specific holy book, which has been, and everyone always says translated and retranslated. None of that matters to me.
Yeah,
like. We have the physical, verifiable evidence.
Right.
We have other things we're so closely related to. You can put a pig organ in you. You know what I mean? And it works, right?
But when I say talk about like a potential, because you're right, that could be
and you mean is that 100%?
Right. So what I mean, is if you look at the fossil record and you say, oh, look at how many similarities there are between a chimpanzee and a human. Right? Or however you want to word that. You say the same molars or whatever, right?
I mean, we share a common ancestor.
Sure. Well, that's the evolutionary model. But is there any possibility that it could be that if there is a creator, hypothetically, that he created lots of different animals, humans, apes, monkeys, fish, whatever, all these different things, that because they share a common creator, there could be common similarities? Like having the same molars in a chimp and in a human, similar or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you think it's directed, he could have directed it to make it seem like it's not directed.
When I know
there were.
What do you mean that it's not directed? What do you mean? How would that seem not
Thomas
directed?
Jefferson was a deist, right?
Yes.
You heard of deism. They believe God, God created
everything and backed up.
No.
Yeah.
No, God set the thing in motion and then stepped away.
Correct.
It's like a clock that he wound up and then left it alone.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe, but
But why, in your view, does it have to be that he stepped away?
I don't think there was a he or an it or a thinking agent that did anything at all.
And I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand
and
that.
so
I'm just asking if you think that scenario I just gave you is even remotely a possibility.
I think it would be really strange for a creator to make it look like they didn't create it.
Okay, but explain that for me real quick. What do you mean it looks like it's not created? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, just the fact of all, like we just said, people are born with the old junk DNA will kick in, and what's the intelligent design behind us having a ton of DNA from our ancestors that isn't even operative, or it might be in some way, but isn't responsible for all our traits. So many things that could go wrong. You know what I mean? It's like for us to live, there has to be all these other levels of life that we never even think about to live as well. Like all the worms that, there are worms that live inside the stomachs of other worms, and there's, all these biotes and things, animals that are living in our guts right now.
So you're saying unless you see perfection in a sense within the creation,
there's no such thing as that, and that's the thing is
but if
you have to let go, I
agree, there's no such thing as that.
Well, but is
that your argument? Is what
but
I'm saying.
I don't believe in the dualistic mindset. We live in, there's so many shades of gray, there's so many levels of complexity, and that's a hard thing to just be it's chaos, man. And there is order to chaos. Once you have a new thing comes along and builds up some stability within this chaotic environment, whatever an oak tree does really well in this environment here, it can exist and replicate, but there is change in it. It's never, no two oak trees are exactly the same. Right. No two people are exactly, we're all combinations of our parents,
right.
And, and we have so many different ways of thinking about it where we want there to be, we so desperately want there to be some type of control because we feel that it's out of control. So the idea of karma, You know, like, doesn't exist, man. Sorry. You know, I hear people say, oh, karma will get them. No, man. Henry Kissinger lived to past 100 years old. Mm-hmm. Karma's not real. There's no divine justice. Like, it's all right here. It's all right now.
Yeah.
We get this life. That's it. Once you study history, you see, oh, that was... Everybody, you know, was in the time and place and the systems and the ways of thinking and the culture and the environment, and they had their things they believed about gender and about race and about religion and about this, and it's a big undulating snake that keeps going forward and barfing out the next thing and barfing out the next thing, and maybe we are like riding this thing into catastrophe. We're going to extinct our own selves because we can't deal with carbon output and our own environment. Maybe that is going to happen, but we all individually are going to experience an end of life. And my contention is you don't remember anything that happened before you lived unless you think your dreams are reality,
which is why reincarnation doesn't make sense to me for that exact reason. To me, and there are even Christians who believe this, like certain like Adventists or whatever or Methodists that believe, I'm not sure, but that believe once you're dead, that's it. This is actually it. And you know, nihilist, right?
No, I'm not.
Not you. I'm saying that would be.
Yeah, I mean that is a type of nihilism, and there is I guess I do have a streak of nihilism. Like, does any of it really matter?
Yeah.
Well, it does to us.
Yeah.
Because we're social creatures and we are. It's in biology's own interest to try to survive and replicate itself.
But there's the love factor, right? Like when a person dies, those that love that person are affected by their death.
Absolutely.
For sure. Even if there is nothing after death, they're still affected in the world.
Well, and that's what's so hard about grief and grieving is your friend is gone and they're truly gone. And especially if they're cremated and or whatever else, like even if you have an open casket, they're gone, man. They're gone.
So when you're at a funeral and the pastor's talking about we'll see him again someday, do you stand up and be like, bogus?
No, man. Because also as a historian and like a historically minded person, like these are human things that we do. Just like art and culture and music, and like religion is an artifact and a cultural expression and mythology. It's all a type of art and expression of our humanity. So I don't begrudge anybody their religion. I get my hackles rise when religion becomes politicized and starts telling me how to live my life. And that's part of me is the success of this messed up country, if we've had any, is it's a secular democracy in that you don't have clerics telling you what to do and how to live. And that is really upsetting to people. No, you can't tell me these people get to exist this way. That you're discriminating against me by saying they get to do that. Well, sorry, man. Like, but it's like in Star Wars, like, you know, to me, the conservative mind will never, and the fundamentalist mind, the conservative fundamentalist, where it's a closed worldview, the world needs to be this way. Anybody who thinks differently is fallen off the path or has a mental illness. You will never know peace. Because the conservative mind and the fundamentalist mind will never know peace, because there will always be humanity, which is expressing itself, which expresses art and mythology and belief the way it does, which express gender the way it does, just like the Chumash had transgender women who were women in their society, as I believe transgendered are people are women in that they identify with that social category, and women are a social category because language is prescriptive.
So to be redundant, real quick, because I meant to ask you this earlier, because this is something that obviously you probably heard this right a million times. So then the question is, what is a woman? Right, you say, well, a woman is someone who identifies as a woman.
That's a social category humans came up with.
Okay, but what is it?
A social category that human beings came up with. It's completely different. Like there are,
so it's undefinable.
There are cultures in Africa where to be a man is to work less than the woman. It's to go to the salon and get your. It's to spend a bunch of time grooming, to chat it up with your boys.
There's societal stereotypes.
So
of course,
to wear unclosed. Bottom, like a dress type bottom, and that's their definition of a man.
But when you say,
because it's a social category,
sure. But when you say trans women are women, you're saying trans women are what?
They're part of the social category of women
that we've decided are called women. society
I
has
don't say
decided.
we decided it, but human beings have lived that way and have decided that.
Well, by we, I mean culturally. Because you said it's a cultural...
it's a social category. It's a social category. Some people don't recognize it as such.
Yeah.
They want to define gender as it's only one of two binary things. And that's just not true. It hasn't been true historically. Again, the Chumash did not have gender ideology. The Christian missionaries who colonized this land did. And they're the ones who brought the gender ideology here and have dictated how people should live and feel and think. And, we're supposed to just ignore like all the problems with this institution, like what they've done to children, how they've taught people to not question authority, how they've taught people not to think a little deeper about what's going on, about science. That type of thinking, like, it has ways of protecting itself. Don't gossip. If you're having doubt, that's sin. That's the devil.
So you would say a biological woman is different than a woman?
But there's no such thing as a woman in biology. There's female or male. But even then, like what? We've never seen Jurassic Park. If frogs become isolated in one biological sex, several of them will spontaneously, their bodies will transform.
Well, that's
biological.
That's biology,
sex.
right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen.
They don't have gender. They don't have gender.
Okay.
No.
Right.
No. But frogs are vertebrates like we are. So we're supposed to ignore that even biological sex is a malleable fact. Again, I have a friend who's a man who has an XY chromosome, and he's a man.
But if like biological male or say biological women one day started sprouting penises or something, then I would say, wow, that's like on its own, like without surgeries or anything, like just literally I'd be like, whoa. Then yes, definitely can change.
Yeah, well, I mean...
you know what I mean? But I don't think anybody's making that argument. I think that's my point is people say biology is biology, gender is not biology.
If you ever talk to trans people or you read what they've written, when they start taking hormones to help them with their identification, it changes the way they think and feel. I know people who their sexuality shifted. Like they might have been bisexual, but then they shifted as they shifted their gender and they took hormones. It shifted not just like who they were attracted to, but what they were attracted to.
Doesn't that make sense? If you're injecting hormones from that, sex,
Again, I do believe in materialism, so I believe we're material beings. So, it's so complicated and convoluted and dense that, again, we're trying to prescribe like a binary to... This is like with Star Wars. Like, people, how many iterations of Star Wars have we seen now? And it's always the case where you have these strict... space fascists trying to impose, they will completely obliterate an entire planet to make a point. But you're going to have people living in patchwork space stations on the burnt out rubble of that planet on the asteroids, just to be themselves, to have their blue hair and live the way they want and live with other creature. In Star Wars, other alien species are kind of symbolic of the other. The Empire is entirely human and right.
So many ways I want to go, man, but we're out of time. Real
time.
Quick, break down agnostic atheist for me, real quick, just so I know the difference.
Agnostic versus Gnostic, that's like an epistemological position. Okay. So Gnostic is when you believe that you could arrive at a complete knowable truth. Whereas agnostic is you kind of recognize, like, I'm not sure. Like, I can't ever know. We could be in the Matrix. We could be a brain in a vat, man. I don't know. It could be a simulation. Like, that's what a lot of this, it's the same conversation.
Meaning you haven't completely blocked out.
So I'm an agnostic atheist. Like, people will say, I'm an agnostic because they're afraid to say they're an atheist. If you don't believe in a God, you're an atheist. In fact, that's
what the word means.
Yes. In fact, when you put an A in front of the thing, that's the negation of the other. So, you even have have, like, religious people, if you believe in one God, you're atheist to every other God, but that one, they're polytheism and all other kinds of things. But I'm an atheist because I don't believe in a God. I don't have a positive belief in one. But then I'm an agnostic atheist because I'm like, I don't know for sure. Who knows for sure? I think if you claim you know for sure, you're being dishonest.
And I would agree.
I would agree. Yeah. And so, that's why fundamentalism. So, like, someone who's a Gnostic atheist will call him, Christopher Hitchens would sometimes call himself an anti-theist. Where, no, I think because of all the evidence around us, the natural evidence, the chaos of it all, I think it's actually more evidence for the fact that, no, there ain't nothing. And I can say for sure there's nothing.
When he was actively against the idea of God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was an atheist, but he also would sometimes defend the anti-theist position. Where, no, the way that y'all act with your God tells me probably no, and you all have a different idea of it and this and that, but it tells me more than anything, no, it's definitely not true. And you all disprove it for me every day, you know. But, like, I don't take that extreme position. I'm just a human being. I'm only going to be around for as long as I'm going to be around. I'm trying to make sense of everything, and
which is good, because when people take, like, let's take the priests in the Catholic Church molesting little kids, and they say, therefore, that's why I don't believe in Catholicism.
Yeah, it leads to a crisis of faith for a lot of people.
Well, but, like, to me, like, to say I don't believe in Catholicism would be that the Catholic religion teaches to molest little boys. Like, you have a bunch of men that are claiming to be Catholics that are acting outside of what Catholicism teaches.
But isn't that convenient that they that they were defended and moved around, and it went all the way up to Benedict, who was Pope, who was helping move people around.
Right, but my point is, it's still the doctrines and the Bible, all this stuff connected with Catholicism does not teach. But
that's the other thing. Catholicism has been very malleable. Like, you've had Catholic socialists, you've had Catholic fascists.
Right.
The Vatican housed fascists who, after the fall of Mussolini and Nazism, and that's how a lot of those people got to Argentina and Brazil to hide out. Was they made a pit stop all the way at the Vatican. So it's malleable. Like, you have progressive Catholics and right-wing fundamentalist Catholics today.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying, right? Like, it's the people that are malleable, not the religion.
But that's, to
me... Because if, let's say there's a religious book, this is our religion, and it has all these rules and regulations, and it says, don't molest little kids, and then a bunch of guys go molest little kids.
I didn't read that scripture.
It doesn't say that.
Yeah,
it's a hypothetical. But my point is, that would be men acting outside of what their supposed religion.
But they're inside the institution.
Correct.
And even the institution can't agree with itself. Even, like, learning about Spanish colonialism, I learned about all these different mendicant orders, like the Jesuits and the Dominicans and the Franciscans. The Franciscans were in charge of the colonization of California. And even within the Franciscans, there's divisions between the old conservatives and the young firebrands. And this is just a thing we do as human beings. And systems of power protect themselves. And that's why we have an issue with the predation of vulnerable people, whether they're children or women or poor people. We have that issue not just in religion, but it's in, we've seen it in Hollywood, we've seen it in the corporate world, we've seen it in media. Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump hanging out together, super wealthy guys getting on planes, Bill Clinton joining them. If we want to be bipartisan in the condemnation, like, this is a problem that's a human problem, and we're only just barely even trying to talk about it honestly. That you have to be on constant alert for that type of thing, because we're a biological creature that has, and there's a significant population of us that will use violence. There's a significant population of us that will use coercion when it comes to sex. And this isn't because of nefarious demons and magic. It's because of biology, experience, natural processes, and we're just trying to make sense of it. But we ain't gonna have much help if like we're still in the demon haunted world. And we're believing all kinds of kooky stuff. And, measles is on the rise again now because, diseases we thought we'd eradicated because people feel so removed from the time when diseases were rampant because of no vaccination. FDR could barely walk because of polio. That, now these things are coming back because, people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. People go to the doctor and they get triggered. He makes me feel, you don't have to talk to me like I'm stupid. You should feel stupid at the doctor. I feel stupid at the doctor.
You're not a PhD.
I don't know anything about whatever uptake this and ribosomes and all that. Unless you were like the best high school biology student, you're going to feel stupid at your doctor.
Yeah.
Just like every time, I studied a different branch of history, I feel stupid about that branch of history because, I didn't know it was like this then and there at this. That's why historians focus on a specific region and time and place and subcategory, whatever, because there's always more to learn. There's always more to understand. Knowledge is not an absolute. Knowledge is a process that we are engaged in, that you will always be a student. I've been a teacher a long time, but I will always be a student.
Oh, yeah.
And
that should be the hope for all of us, really.
Yeah. And we should all be skeptical. I just don't think there's anything guiding it other than natural laws. And again, I think there's heaven and hell here on earth. Yeah. It's up to us to make it. And right now it's a pretty hellish, but we still have all the wonderful things like community and friends and family and love and fun conversations and
hanging out here,
blended chai. And kitty cats and adorable dogs. And we're just trying to make the best of it, man. So we gotta do what we can with
cool, man.
But it was good talking to you.
Yeah,
man.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Fun times, man.
Thanks again for checking out this episode. For feedback, please email me at whycan'twetalkaboutThat@proton.me. If you know anyone who would like to be a guest, please send them my way. And please don't forget to tell everyone that you know about this show. Thank you.
I'm Political Payne, and this is Talking Neo-Fash American Blues. You might have heard about a guy sang a song or two named Woody Guthrie. Wrote the talking blues about rich and powerful mean-type men like Fred Trump who rob you with a fountain pen. Well, believe it or not, but it's still the case. These mean old men still running the place, taking our friends, snatching folks to camps. It's a reign of terror. We can't turn our backs. It's gonna take people power. We used to have labor unions and left-wingers. America used to have folk singers. You see it happen about every day, a new escalation to take our rights away. They already repealed Roe v. Wade, deployed ICE and Marine Corps to L.A. You got D.C. soldiers here to stay. Better get on your knees, kiss their boots and pray. And everyone is afraid to say the wrong thing or MAGA takes your job away. They said they'd make it great again. Only taught you how to hate your friends. Attacking doctors, schools, libraries, teachers, anyone without white-skin features. LGBTQ folks have been around forever, but they erase history in all but two genders. They lie and cheat, steal and scream at anyone who doesn't believe exactly what they want, no matter how mean or stupid and twisted and sick and obscene. Liberals used to say, live and let live. Now they say, what more can we give? The right wing, they have run this nation for decades now, since Ronald Reagan. We've only known recession and inflation, so they brainwash each new generation with corporate media conglomeration and authoritarian intimidation, like private prison, mass incarceration, concentration camps, and mass deportation in this militarized police state nation. They used to say land of the free. Now it's show me your papers. You're coming with me. Drive a man insane, posting genocide and war crimes on Maine. Takes a sick and twisted type of brain to walk real happy onto Epstein's plane. Tech oligarchs with their algorithms, their AI bots to keep you from thinking and put them in charge of everything and divided the working folk throughout the land. America used to have progressive taxation and a middle class throughout the nation. I think that we might feel the same about the other party that's part to blame. You hardly ever hear them say the names of FDR or JFK. And lately they ain't been the same, incompetent or body-souled incontinent. Much too old to the fascists, they just always fold. It's about time they all got told. We don't need Ned Flanders. America needs more Bernie Sanders. Well, don't let them fascists keep you down, terrorize you with their fascist clown. No, it feels demoralizing, but good folks, we keep organizing to protect our friends and communities, keep this messed up country free. It's gonna take both you and me to stand up to this pack of bullies. We're gonna have to talk to each other, family, friends. Say make America think again. Say make America safe again. Say make America fair again. Make the billionaires pay their share again. Make America care again and bring this fascist turn to an end.